It's that time of year again. The days are getting longer and warmer, the snow and cold has mostly gone away, and the beginning of springtime in Bloomington is leading to the leaves growing back onto the trees. As all of those things happen, the riders who have been stuck inside their Bloomington bike rooms and garages for months are welcomed back to the outdoors, more specifically, the Black Cinder track at Bill Armstrong Stadium. And as they return to the track, the Bill Armstrong Stadium lights can start to be seen around town on a nightly basis, creating a glow over the northeast part of campus. The training seemingly never stops, from fall series events to winter break trips to quals and now the race. It's the one day every rider dreams about. For other athletes, there are multiple game days, but for Little 500 riders, there's just one day, and it's one day to enter your name into Little 500 lore.
Out of 4, Sigma Chi is going to hold on to win the 44th running of the Little 500.
They're into the final turn. Lucan's trying to hold him off. Lucan to the big burst, and he wins it for God's house.
And the 60th edition of the Little 500 goes to the Cutters.
Unbelievable. Here comes Blackie, Boles, and Kevin Mangle. They are your 2017 Little 500 champions. It's a sprint to the finish for the 68th Little 500, and it's going to be Cutters. Cutters are back on top.
For some, today is the fourth and final time to compete in America's biggest collegiate bike race. For others, it's the first time on the big stage. But for all, it's the one day they've been waiting for since Cutters crossed the finish line last April. It's 1 year of training for one day in April. Let's go to Bill Armstrong Stadium. It's time for the 69th Little 500.
Boy, if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what does. Welcome into the 69th edition of the Men's Little 500 here in the broadcast booth. I'm Josh Eastern, joined by the 2017 winner with Blackie, Boles, Charlie Hammon. Charlie, first year on the broadcast, welcome back here to Bloomington.
You know, Josh, there's never better place than Bloomington in April. The sun's shining, the stadium's packed, and the riders are ready to go. It's about to be a great race.
Absolutely. We had a great race on the women's side. Yesterday, it was Teeter holding off a few teams. DG is one of them. But today, it's a wide-open field. Cutters, obviously, the favorite as the pole sitters. But what are you most looking forward to today?
Yeah, on the top end, you got Cutters and Blackie Boles are the two big teams to look for. Both of those teams have the top two riders in the race, and Xavier Martinez and Noble Gyein for Cutters. So look for them to have some late in the race fireworks. But also look for Griego, the Team Pursuit champions. You could see a late in the race breakaway attempt from them. So we'll be watching for that.
Absolutely. And this race today, it's beautiful weather. It should be a great day. But for more on that weather, let's send it down to Eddy Cotton.
Thanks, Josh. Now, the weather today is absolutely stunning. We've got 60 degrees here on the track and a 5-mile-per-hour wind coming from the north. It's incredible, but I talked to Hank Duncan of Forest, and he said to be weary because there's dry conditions, which means the track is going to ride a little bit faster than usual. Expect it to be a little slippery around the gutters, and he said to watch out for turn 3. Now, I talked to Jake Cohen of 3PH. He said this is really good for teams that aren't as deep depth-wise, but it'll be interesting to see. But no matter what, it could be worse. There are thunderstorms planning to arrive here in Bloomington at 9 o'clock, so someone's watching out for this race.
Thank you very much, Eddy. Yes, it is a beautiful day. We were down there on the track. The wind didn't seem like it was going to be too much of a factor. As a former rider, if you were riding these conditions, how excited would you be?
Honestly, this is the ideal conditions for a rider. There's the wind. Without the wind, you can have a breakaway attempt. You don't have that wind whipping you, trying to push you back. So I think there's going to be a lot of fireworks today.
Absolutely. We had an exciting women's race, although it was a little bit windy yesterday. But looking at this field today as the teams are getting set, taking a look at Grey Goat right there. This is a team, they finished second 2 years in a row. What do you see out of this Grey Goat team this year?
Yeah, absolutely. All 4 of their riders were in the top 25, top 30 of ITTs. They won Team Pursuit with a sub-9-minute run, which only happens like maybe once every 5 years. So it's really fast. So look for them. I mean, with a 4th rider as strong as they are, nobody can put them away. And like on the other side, like they can really do a lot of damage to some really strong teams. So look for them to have some fireworks towards 175 around there.
Well, we'll see if we get another exciting sprint like we did last year, but they're tired of finishing second. I caught up with them earlier this spring to see what their mentality is coming into the race.
Now it's Grey Goat catching up. Blackie Boles on the inside. It's a sprint to the finish for the 68th Little 500, and it's going to be Cutters. Cutters are back on top.
This has been the story for Grey Goat the past 2 Little 500s, coming up just a little bit short. But now in 2018, it's being used as motivation.
For us to be successful this year, we want all our guys to go out there and to know we've done everything we can to give it our best and to hopefully bring it to the top of the podium.
We just have a culture of working hard in the winter, putting a lot of hours in on the rollers. And when it comes to when the track opens, we all get our hours in.
Because Grey Goat is an independent team, they have to go find riders themselves. And to find the fastest riders in Bloomington, they've gone to the fastest sandwich shop in Bloomington.
A lot of these guys are like Jimmy John's guys, so we just find them through that.
I found Grey Goat, long story short. I was working at Jimmy John's, and Sam was actually my coworker. He was like, oh, you kind of ride a bike. Well, I don't know, do you want to come and ride for Grey Goat?
But not everyone came from Jimmy John's. Sometimes they just happen to be in the same class.
I was interested in riding. I showed up in actually a Cutter shirt, and he was like, hey, Cutter. I was like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, you riding? I was like, no. He's like, you interested? I was like, heck yeah, I'm interested. I want to do that.
However the team was put together, Grey Goat is looking forward to building off of 2 straight second-place finishes.
This year, we are really shooting to win it.
For IU Newsnet, I'm Josh Eastern.
So Grey Goat looking to get, I guess, back to the podium, but not just the podium. They want that first-place spot this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting second place 2 years in a row is a great accomplishment, but they're feeling a little bitter off of that. So look for them to launch an attack. I don't love their chances in a sprint. I think they could do it, but I think what they're going to be good at is getting away, be a solo, maybe get up a straightaway, and if that happens, I think they're going to go run away with it.
Absolutely. We saw last year trying to break away at the end. Didn't quite work out for them. The team it did work out for, though, was Cutters, Noble Gyein, beating Sam Stratton of Grey Goat. As you see, last year's podium, Cutters, Grey Goat, and Blackie Boles. It's been the same podium the past 2 years. Do you think it's going to be the same this year?
I think there's honestly a really good shot of that happening. I think those are the 3 strongest teams, and they could definitely get it done. So looking forward to that.
And just looking at Cutters right there, they'll be wearing those yellow jerseys. And this team, they seem so confident right now. They were just kind of hanging out while a lot of other riders were riding around the track. They seem very calm ahead of this race.
Absolutely. Cutters honestly have the ideal team. Not only do they have 4 really strong riders who are all in the top 20, 25 of ITTs, they also have the most dominant sprinter in the race. So look for them to either launch an attack, which they definitely could do, or just wait for a sprint like they did last year.
It'll be really interesting to see kind of how this strategy plays out today. This is a very exciting race. Obviously, Cutters coming back as the pole team, but another team, Blackie Boles, you know them very well. This is a team also built with the number 1 ITT rider.
Absolutely. So Blackie Boles not only have the first place ITTer, but they also have the 3rd place ITTer. So look for them to have a big 1-2 punch, maybe later in the race. Look around 185 time frame to get that 3rd place ITTer, Robert Strobel, to slam it and then give it to Xavier to ideally get off the front and solo to a victory.
Absolutely. Well, that'll be interesting to watch. But now we have a guest here in the broadcast booth. Our first guest, Sam Feist, is back. Sam, welcome back to the Little 500.
Is there a better day? Really, honestly.
I don't know. We were asked. I asked him that. He said no.
There isn't. This is the best day of the year. I'm so excited to be back for what's become my 6th Little 500, which is kind of weird. A little odd.
That is awesome. And you're not really in Bloomington much anymore. You're living up near Chicago. But what keeps you coming back to this race?
Part of it is a free hotel. My girlfriend Katie is in grad school here,
all right.
So she's finishing up. You can't miss this. You'd have the biggest fear of missing out not being at the Little 500. It is the best single day, or really 2 days, Bloomington has to offer. There's just nothing like the competition out here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Sam, you covered the race pretty heavily when you're both interviews and stories. What are you looking for today?
My biggest thing that I always look for in all these races, and it's easier, I think, when you're not actually in the broadcast, just trying to keep up with the strategy, trying to really focus on what teams are doing what and why. Yesterday, I had so much fun looking at the teams that in the women's race that were between 5th and 10th. who's trying to do what? Like, what's the thought process going on here? And especially today, just seeing after we saw what the girls did yesterday, is somebody going to try to break off and run away and hide? Are they going to wait for a sprint? Blackie Boles probably wants a sprint with Xavier. I mean, it's just so much fun to keep up with all the strategy, all the nuances to go into these races that I don't think you have anywhere else in any other sporting event in Bloomington.
Absolutely. And I guess what do you look for when you're kind of leading up to the race? I know you're not really in Bloomington, you're not necessarily at the track, but kind of from afar, how do you kind of stay involved with this?
I mean, I watch everything. I mean, literally everything that goes into the week. I think Jordan Bailey, former race director, and I probably text constantly about this race. But I mean, when it comes to race day, you just look who has experience, who's got a good sprinter. That's what you need to win the Little 500.
Yeah, absolutely. So who do you got? Who's your pick?
I've been getting it wrong like every year for the last 5 years.
Don't we all, though?
I mean, I never get it. But I'm not just saying this because you're here, but the Blackie Bulls, I mean, just Xavier Martinez is probably, two-time ITT champ at this point. If they can keep it within 4 or 5 teams at the end in the sprint, I just don't see anybody beating them.
Absolutely. Well, it'll be exciting again. We've had the same podium for the last 2 years.
It's getting old, isn't it?
No, maybe we'll see if a fraternity can finally get up there. But Sam, thank you very much for coming up here, and we appreciate and enjoy this Little 500.
No, thank you guys for inviting me. It's always so much fun to see everybody. Have a good time on the broadcast.
Thank you very much. And now we send it down to Eddie Cotton, who is with Jonathan Jaggard of Effandi.
Thank you, Josh. I'm here with Jonathan Jaggard of Effandi. Now, Jonathan, this is your last race. What's your mentality knowing that this is all you have to put on the line?
Yeah, so the past few years, we've been doing everything that we can to train and eat right, stretch, all the little things, all the big things, and we know that we've prepared as well as possible. So we know that we're coming in here with exactly what we need, and we just got to execute now.
Now, what goes through your head when there's 20 minutes to go until the race begins?
I'm just trying to stay calm, just shut everything out, just focus on this warm-up, because it's all the stuff in your head is just going to distract you. So you just got to focus on what you can control, just the warm-up, eating right, and then starting the race well.
We got perfect weather. You got this great pit spot. What are your expectations for today?
We've prepared to win, so we're expecting to go out and get a win today. So we've done everything that we need to do except for execute today. So that's the last piece of the puzzle is perform well today.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Effandi starting out of the 9 spot today. Jonathan Jagger, the number 11 rider in ITTs. But we're taking a look right here at cutters, and specifically Noble Gyein crossed the finish line first. Last year was number 2 in ITTs by less than a second to Xavier Martinez. What does he bring to this race today?
Noble is an all-around fantastic cyclist, both on the road and the Little 5. He does a lot of road racing on the side. He has that experience of just racing, and that's so important in Little 5. So he is arguably the best sprinter in the race, as we saw that last year, but he's also very fit. So he can do anything that the race sends to him.
Well, we'll see if he is on the bike there at the end for cutters. He was there last year. Our Michael Dugan caught up with him to break down how that final few laps went.
Walk me through what's going through your head as you're back here in halfway through lap 198.
Yeah, so this was the Blackie Bulls had just come on, and they had done a good amount of chasing, and then Joe had just come on, and he shut down that final gap. So I was pretty excited. I was like, okay, like there's enough guys like splitting the workload where I'm able to conserve, and I was still, a little farther back than I probably should have been, but I was focusing on moving up at this point. And at this moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to sit on Jet Black. They've been opening the pull up. I'll be able to slip on through. And that was a gamble, and it ended up not paying off for me because he didn't pull through, which is, fine. I'm not him. I'm not in control of him. And he gets swarmed, and I have to go, okay, I need to get out of here. And I remember thinking, there's a lot of guys who have crushed it to get me here. I need to make sure I finish this job. So I slowly moved my way out, and I'm fortunate that the sprint didn't start earlier, and I'm able to carry enough speed and get my initial gap here. Because I knew I had to win turn 1 because of how bad it was, and if I could get to that first turn, I could, because you can see they're all skipping through the turns, and I'm able to take it faster and not skip as much, and I'm saving energy. So I knew I would have to win turn 1 and then win turn 3. Because if you can't pass at that point, you've already spent so much energy. And the turns were pretty rough that day, but at that point I had saved energy through 3, and I see griego on my outside, and I go, oh, I've still got a ton left, and I just kick in the last that I have. And I guess the big question I've always been asked is, like, were you ever nervous? And really, nerves were never going through. It was like, if you're nervous in that situation, you're not the person who should be in that situation.
So Gyein is back. This is his last race, and this Cutters team brings back 3 of the 4 riders they had last year, where they won the whole thing. What sticks out to you about Cutters this year?
You know, I'm interested to see what Cutters are going to do this year, because they could not only launch a breakaway attempt, they could also go for the sprint like they did last year. So they got 7th place in team pursuit, which is a little misleading because they actually crashed during their run, and they were still able to get 7th place. So they're a very fit team, 4 guys in the top 25, like I said earlier. So I'm curious to see what their pit is looking at. But either way, like, they are the favorites.
Absolutely. They will be in that pit right at the start of turn 1 here on the front stretch. But you're a former rider yourself. You rode in a few races, won the 2017 race. Do you have any race day rituals that kind of got you ready for the race?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just trying to keep your mind off of it as much as possible. So what I would do is I would drown it out with some music. Kendrick Lamar's Humble was my go-to song. I think I listened to that legitimately 20-plus times on race day.
That's good.
So that's what I did, is just trying to stay loose, dance around a little bit and just feel good.
So our Molly Levine caught up with a bunch of the other teams to see what their race day rituals are.
All right, Blake, race day rituals, what you got?
Wake up early, try to shake off the nerves, choke down a couple pieces of toast, maybe drink a bottle of water if I'm lucky, and then go to the track with my team.
Race day ritual, I have to listen to the intro of Love Sofa by Chief Keef. Chief Keef ain't about this, Chief Keef ain't about that. Listen to it twice, that's it.
Set my alarm for 8 a.m., wake up, stretch. I watch The Office, Safety Training Part 2, best episode. Just gets you nice and relaxed, feeling good.
Something that really, makes you confident.
Yeah. I always like to wear a good pair of socks. If you have good socks, you're going to race well.
What kind of socks do you wear on race day?
Something colorful. I have a nice pair of purple and pink socks. I have these blue and black ones that I have on right now. And then last year we had another pair of pink and blue socks.
Every year I got a haircut the Friday before the race, just because I like to feel the wind through my hair and like to look sharp.
What kind of haircut did you get?
Actually, every year I went in and just told the barber to make me look fast.
We getting that?
I eat 2 packets of oatmeal every 2 hours before I race, every bike race I do.
So you just drink baking soda? You gotta drink it, but I use this topical form. It kind of like rubs on like a lotion, so you don't have to there's like some side effects if you drink it, like makes you sick to your stomach.
Charlie, what are your race day rituals?
Well, I'm a freshman, so I gotta race before I get any race day rituals.
It doesn't stop you from being sore, but it kind of delays like the onset of fatigue.
Keeping it relaxed with the guys. Don't want to be doing anything crazy like watching Breaking Away or race tape, because that just makes you psyched out and you probably won't even sleep the night before.
What are your rituals?
The one thing that I've done every single year is just watch the race tape from the year before.
Always start off with a black coffee with some peanut butter and oatmeal with a banana chopped up in it.
So you eat that before the race. Do you eat anything after the race?
Subway sandwich.
I'd say Nick's the most talented, at least in the hair department this year. But he's got the chops going, he's got the stash going, and I think the little, I don't even know what they call that thing, but
it's a flavor saver, man. This is what's gonna win.
I'm here with Zach Horowitz of NEH, and Zach, you're a senior. This is your last race. What's going through your head?
Definitely a lot is going through my head. I mean, this is the 4th and final year, so this is everything I've worked for in my college experience, and just glad to be here with my team that I love so much, and we're just excited to go out there and do everything we possibly can to take home the prize, but most importantly, we're here to have fun, and that's what we're going to go do today.
As a senior on this new Knicks team, you're the leader. What are you telling your guys before this race starts?
I'm letting them know that, again, this is everything we've worked for. This is, we're ready for this. We're going to trust our training, and we're going to go out there and we're going to do everything we know how to do. And they're going to believe it.
What legacy do you want to leave here at the Little 500?
I guess I'd like to be known as, somebody who just tried to smile, tried to have fun, and really enjoy their time here. Nobody can ever take their time and whatever they do for granted, and that's definitely one of the biggest things that I've learned, especially being surrounded by people who have their seasons ripped away from them. So I'm just blessed and thankful to be here for a 4th and final year, and I'm going to leave it all out there.
Perfect. Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eddie. And if he isn't one of the most interesting riders in this race, I don't know who is. He's on NEH Cycling, a new team here to the Little 500. They'll be starting out at the 11th spot. There may be one of those dark horse teams on the backstretch that could maybe cause some problems for those at the top. But who are you looking out for today?
Yeah, I think Jet Black is a team that people haven't really been talking about this year. So Jet Black was formerly Delta Tau Delta. They won in 2012 and 2016. So their coach, Courtney Bishop, is one of the best coaches in Little 5. So look for them. They're in the first pit in turn 2, which is an interesting one. They like to fly under the radar. This is really their MO. So look for them feeding off the teams on the front stretch, and look for them to not pull through at all. That's Courtney's MO. Don't pull through. Sit on everybody's wheel and try to launch a late in the race attack.
Then there's some other teams here on the front stretch. Sig Ep is one that kind of stands out to me a little bit. Tom Settle is an interesting rider. He can carry a lot of laps, but Ben Harris, who has been out for basically this entire spring, he's in the Final Four riders. What can he bring to this race today if he's fully healthy?
Absolutely. So Ben Harris last year was a top 3 ITTer. I think he was plagued with some injuries this year and had to spend some time off the bike, but they're going to be really strong. If Ben Harris can do a lot of that upfront work, give it to Tom Settle at the end, that's a really strong team. Both of those guys were top 5 ITTers last year. Tom is a top 10 ITT this year, so look for them to be there.
And then there's some other teams as well. You have Fiji here on this front stretch, but a couple other fraternity teams: Phi Kappa Psi, Phi Delta Theta in the 2 and 3 spots. We haven't really seen them around much lately. They're kind of making, I guess, re-entrances to kind of being at the top this year.
Yeah, especially Phi Delta Theta. They were a very good team from 2012 to 2016. They had a lot of second and third place finishes. So their alumni base has brought them back after a couple bad years, and they're going to be strong this year, so look out for them. In terms of Phi Psi, they have Albert Laval, who is a top 5 ITTer. He's a junior, and so look for him to be doing a lot of work up front. I think his little brother is also on the team.
And now we are just getting set for these pre-race rituals. The first one is the invocation, and we now send it down to the field.
Catholic Center for today's invocation. Let us pause for a moment of silence. Let us pause for a moment of silence in honor of the late Jean Ann Ford, Steering Committee 1969, and Judy Elliott, a longtime sponsor of the Little 500 with the Elliott Stone Company. Eternal and ever-loving Father, we praise you for the opportunity to gather together for this contest. We thank you for these athletes and the gifts you have given them. We thank you also for all those who work so hard preparing for this great race. Almighty God, you created all humanity to strive for excellence. Yet as Mother Teresa reminds us, you call us not to be successful, but faithful. And so it is in the honest pursuit of excellence that we find you and the strength we need. We ask you to bless these athletes, keep them safe from injury and harm, instill in them a respect for each other, and reward them for their perseverance. We entreat you to send your blessings also on all of us here today. In your mysterious ways, you have made competition a means to unify us. May we celebrate and cheer, therefore, with respect and love for all our brothers and sisters in our community. Then our elation will give you glory and prepare us for your kingdom. As you told the prophet Jeremiah long ago, let him who glories glory in this, that he understands and knows me, who practices steadfast love, justice, and righteousness, says the Lord. Heavenly Father, please bless the 2019 Little 500, for you live and reign forever and ever. Amen. Good luck and Godspeed, everyone. Presenting our colors today, the Honor Guard from Indiana University's Army ROTC program. I use Honor Guard as a competitive drill and honor squad
which consistently receives high marks around the nation. Many of you are now watching skyward for parachuters from Skydive Indianapolis, carrying the American flag, the state of Indiana flag. Please join our riders and coaches in celebrating America's freedom and those who now protect it. We especially honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, we introduce to you Indiana University Jacobs School of Music sophomore, Alivia Newcomb. Please rise and remove your caps as Alivia Newcomb presents our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight over the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Alivia Newcomb, ladies and gentlemen. Starting riders coming to the start-finish line as we near racing time. We present Indiana University's men's acapella group, Another Round. We continue with our traditions, back home again in Indiana.
Do do do
again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight at the Wabash, then I long for my Indiana home. Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight at the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana.
Another round.
And there go the balloons, and back home again in Indiana. Just gives you chills here on such a beautiful day. Those drone views you're also seeing. A big thank you to IU Communications. Just a great vantage point here of Bill Armstrong Stadium. So we've done all of, I guess, all the hoopla. Now it's time for racing. You started a race during your time. I guess, what does that feel like?
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome experience. So you'll see them do 3 pace laps for the media, and that's where you're nervous, but you're ready to go. Those first few laps are pretty scary. There's generally a decent amount of crashes in the first 5 to 10 laps because everybody's nerves are high. Everybody's really close together. Not some of the bottom tier teams are still in the pack, so you have a lot of people around you. So it's really important to keep your head up, make sure you're in the right position.
And now we send it down to Eddy Cotton, who has more on race strategy.
Thank you, Josh. Now, Charlie, you mentioned there's going to be a little nerves early. There were nerves before the race even started. We saw 2 pre-race crashes, which are a bit chaotic. We saw Acacia actually crash into a man crossing the infield, and we saw a crash on turn 1 with Griego. So there's a little bit of nerves going on definitely for this race, but something to watch out for. I talked to a bunch of different teams about the strategy of this race. Talked to Hank Duncan of Forest. He told me about how they crashed earlier in the spring series, so no one really expects much out of them. So expect them to get aggressive in the hopes that no one is really expecting that. Now you look at the entire field, a team like Griego is one to look at that might break away early. They're a team with lots of depth, and as Ryan Knapp said, no team in this field wants to get into a sprint finish. His reasoning, there's 2 guys in the field that you cannot stop. It's Xavier Martinez of Blackie Boles and Noble of Cutters. So he pretty much just said, if you're looking for a sprint finish, you're pretty stupid. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Eddy. So now the pace laps are getting underway, and the anticipation is building here for the 69th edition of this men's Little 500. All the hoopla is out of the way.
Yeah, so this first lap, you'll see the cameras out on the track taking pictures, but after the first lap, they'll leave.
And now we take a look at some of the rules of the race and the flags. Obviously, we are waiting for that green flag and the start. But what about that blue and orange flag? In what scenario will we see that come out?
Yeah, so the blue and orange flag is for teams that are being lapped. So what what the officials want to do is get those teams out of the way when the lead of the race is coming through to make sure that those lap teams don't cause any crashes.
And then obviously the black flag and then the checkered flag. That is what we're all waiting for at the end.
Absolutely, yeah. So the red flag, you won't see that thrown very often. The only time it's been thrown in the past was because of weather, if they have to delay the race because the weather is too bad.
And now we send it down to the field for Indiana, our Indiana.
Fight for the cream and crimson, for the glory of old IU. Never daunted, we cannot falter. In the battle, we're tried and true. Indiana, our Indiana, Indiana, we're all for you. Indiana, our Indiana, Indiana, we're all for you. We will fight for the cream and crimson, for the glory of
All right, so now we are just about set. This is the final pace lap, and here we go. We're setting the grid. There was row 1. In row 2, Blackie Boles right in the middle. And as we move along here, what are some teams that you'll be looking out for as we move farther on back?
Yeah, so I would say Bears is a strong team. They're sitting in the 12th position. They have one of the best sprinters in the race in Blackie. He was a top 5 ITTer.
So that'll be an interesting team to watch. And as they come around turn 4, we will look for Chappie Blackwell and the green flag. Here it is. Let's go racing at the 69th Men's Little 500.
Yeah, so really look for teams to head on a swivel, making sure they're in the right position. There's generally a lot of crashes in these first 5 to 10 laps. As you see, already have one down right now in turn 1.
So 2 in the back right there, already down, and we are not even through 1 lap. So Evan Scholars and Delta Chi are both down, but now they are both up and going. There's a replay of it there. Otherwise, a fairly clean first lap.
Yeah, I think the top of the race is really doing a good job keeping the pace hot. It's important for those top 2 rows to keep things fast so things don't get bunched up too much, because that's when the crashes happen. So they're doing a really good job at that. They're doing some pretty fast laps right now. You see Cutters on the front there.
And it looks like Delta Chi's rider did come off injured there in turn 1, as you can see right there in the top left screen. Also, Evan Scholars, the only pre-race penalty, they did just serve that. So a crash and a pre-race penalty to start their day. But right now it looks like it's Ben Harris and Sig Epp leading it here now through 2 laps scored.
Yeah, it's important to get those penalties out of the way early. What you have to do is you have to come across the start-finish line into the penalty box and come to a stop, serve your penalty, and then get back on the bike and get back to the pack as quickly as possible. So good for Evan Scholars to get that out of the way as quickly as possible and hopefully get back in the pack.
It looks like, though, that rider went a little bit past the penalty box. He had to come back towards it. And now they will be playing catch-up all day, and we might see that blue and orange flag here fairly early. But aside from that, it's single file there at the top with Cutters there.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of a bunch up between Sig Epp and BKB, but both of them kept their bikes up.
How tough is it early on when the pack is so big to just kind of keep your distance between riders?
It's really tough, especially you see it in the men's race, because all these men are coming in, everybody thinks they're going to win, everybody's confident, so everybody wants to be at the top of the bike race, and it's really important to not say, as we say in bike racing, recycled. That's when the teams from the right side come up around you and they swallow you into the pack. So you want to avoid that as much as possible and get out when you see that it's happening to you.
So Evan Scholars now coming back for another penalty. I don't know if the first one was served correctly, but so far, no big exchanges.
Yeah, so Evan Scholars, you see them when they got back on the bike, they kind of came into the pack a little too closely. You can see in-race penalties happen when you impede other riders. So you see that a lot in exchanges when you get on the bike and you try to jump right into the pack. You have to ride straight and then get into the pack. So hopefully Evan Scholars won't get another penalty for that one.
It looks like it will be Effandi here early, leading it out.
Yeah, we see Phi Delta Theta is
Phi
on the
Delta
front
Theta.
there. And you see Phi Psi right behind him pulling through now. That's Albert Laval, top 5 IT tier.
And it looks like Godspeed having some trouble here on the front stretch. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but he had trouble just getting on his bike, and now Godspeed, they'll have some trouble getting back in this race here as the main pack coming around turn 3.
Yeah, that's surprising. They're in 8th place qualifications time, so you know they have pretty strong riders. There's another.
He just kind of crashed himself.
Yeah.
On the bike there was David Emilian, a sophomore in their first race. This is Godspeed's first race, so maybe some jitters here early on for the team out of the 8th spot. And already we're seeing Grey Goat get up early. They started from that 24th spot. We were talking to them earlier. They were saying how they didn't really think it'd be too much of an issue getting up to the front. They wanted to do it quick. They have Caleb Langley, who can really pull a lot of laps for them today, and already they are up early.
Yeah, it's important. They're coming out of the 24th spot. Pit's in the middle of the backstretch. It's really important to get those top qualifications times, because if you're back there, you're risking crashes. But thankfully, they had a clean way to the front, and they're in great position now.
A lot of change at the top, as we probably could have expected here early on.
Yeah, it seems like the pack is doing a good job. Everybody's pulling through. When the rider at the front does their pull, they come off, and the next rider comes up. And it seems like teams are doing a great job of cycling that through.
And it looks like some teams are coming off the front now and readying for their first exchange of the day. Out of the 22 spot, Alpha Sigma Phi setting up for one now.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of exchanges in the next 5 to 10 laps. A lot of teams will get that first rider off. They had to do a lot of fast laps at first, and they want to get them off the bike, get them rested up for their next set.
So an unofficial lap there is Sig Ep was the leader in the last lap, about a 39-second lap for them. Here as we're through 8 laps scored.
Yeah, 39-second lap is a pretty solid lap. Anything under 40, the pack is going pretty strong. Once you start getting down to 35 and below, that's when riders are really crushing it and doing really fast laps. So 39 is a strong early lap speed.
Is this any faster or slower than you thought this race would be?
Honestly, it's a little faster. In the men's race especially, you'll see times get to like 40 to 45 seconds because nobody wants to pull through, but teams are doing a pretty good job of cycling through right now.
And it is Sig Ep that is kind of hanging out towards the front a good amount here today.
Yeah, you see
so
Evan
far.
Scholars on the screen there. Looks like the pack's going to swallow him up in about a half straightaway. It's unfortunate there will already be a lap down. That's what happens when you have to serve those pre-race penalties. They can really hurt you.
And another exchange here coming on the near side from Pi Kappa Alpha as they'll try to slot back in. But right now we're seeing Gafambi there on the front.
Yeah, so Gafambi is formerly Beta Theta Pi. So Beta Theta Pi is a very strong program. Their last win was in 2013. So they're riding under the Gafambi name this year. But look for them to be strong. They have a great alumni race. Know the race very well.
They won the race back in 2003 when they also were Gafambi. This is just their their third appearance as Gafambi in the race.
Yeah, you see in their pit they have Eric Anderson, who's a 2013 champion. He knows this race really well. Look for them to have a strong day. Looks like Sig Ep is pulling through on the front now. That's Ben Harris. I think you're going to see him do a lot of the work up front for Sig Ep. They have 2 really strong riders. I think they're going to have to front a lot of the load for the rest of their team today.
With this first set, how long, if you were a coach, would you want some of these riders going?
Absolutely. I think if you're a fitter team, you should have your first rider do, I would say, 15 to 25 laps. Because you kind of want for those first exchanges to go. You don't want to be the first team to exchange. You kind of just want to eat up some laps, let your strong, fit rider wait for that second. So when their second rider comes in, the race is a little more relaxed, and they can ideally just slot in right away.
And is it common for there to be this much, I guess, change at the top this early?
honestly, I think this is a little bit uncommon. When the races that I did, people were not willing to pull through this often. You see cutters on the front now, they're generally not at the front that much, and it seems like every team wants to make it a little bit faster, maybe get some of the bottom tier riders out of the way so that the race is a little bit safer. You see Sig-Up, Feist, Cutters, Feidelts, BKB all cycling through. Those are the big names in the race, and they're all doing their share of the work today.
So it'll be interesting to see when some of these top teams are getting ready to make some exchanges. It looks like Theta Chi might be setting up for one on the near side. And now we send it down to Eddie Cotton on the field.
Thanks, Josh. Now, as we look at this race, we know it's an athletic event, it's always important to acknowledge that there's always a little bit more meaning for some of the individuals that are riding here today, one of which, according to an article by Phil Steinmetz, a great article in the IDS, Matt Cooper of Fiji. Now, he has an incredible story where in February 16, 2016, he was diagnosed with leukemia, sent to the Riley Children's Hospital with 90% cells that are cancerous. He had a 5-year survival rate of 27.4%, and over time it just continued to get more aggressive and aggressive until it came to the point where he needed a bone marrow transplant to have a 20 to 30% chance to live. Now, he successfully got that transplant and was an outpatient on August 3rd, 2016, but during the entire process, all he would do was sit on a bike and hope for the best, and that is where he developed his passion. I talked to him today about being in this race. He said nothing more than an honor this is and a blessing, and he said he feels fast, real fast.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Yeah, just a tremendous story for Matt Cooper. He's the only experienced rider for Fiji this year, and they are in the 13th spot this year as well, looking to maybe make some noise here in this race. And now it looks like we're starting to set up for some exchanges here on the near side with some of the leaders.
Yeah, you see Sig-Up's about to do an exchange. It looks like Blackie Boles were going to follow that out, but they decided to sit up and not go for it. We got our first exchange for the big guns in the race today with Sig-Up.
And that is Tom Settle getting on the bike, Ben Harris coming off. So about a 16-lap set for Ben Harris. And Tom Settle, one of the best riders in this field, will now get his shot here and in this 2019 Little 500.
Yes, Tom Settle just had a great exchange. You saw him go straight when he got on the bike to make sure he didn't impede anybody in the pack. That's what an experienced rider does. He's a veteran. He's going to get out there, slot in the pack, and have a great first set.
And it looks like it's starting to get strung out maybe just a little bit here. Is this just because all the exchanges now kind of starting to happen?
Yeah, you saw BKB and Cutters kind of in Feist maybe going for an exchange, decided not to. I think people just don't want to be the one leading it out, and they'd rather follow somebody else's burn so that they can save a little energy. So I think some of the big teams that are trying to exchange are kind of calling each other's bluffs because they don't want to be the first one to go. Looks like BKB is coming on the back. They're definitely doing an exchange. Looks like they have their rider, Robert Strobel, is coming out to Zach. This is his first Little 5. It's Robert's first Little 5 too, so they're doing a bike-to-bike exchange.
That is Zach Mears, a junior out of Batesville, Indiana. His first race, as you mentioned. Here comes the exchange there on the left side.
Yep, that was a great exchange. You see he's going to slot back in right at the end of the pack, maybe spend a little time back there and work his way to the front. Looks like Cutters might be going to exchange 2 right now. They got a rider out bike to bike. Greg Hubricks is on the bike, and he's exchanging it to Patrick, who is a third-year rider. He is a junior.
Patrick Coulter in his third race out of Mishawaka, Indiana. And it looks like Cutter's following a burn here as well.
Yeah, that was a big gap for Greg. That was a great exchange. And Patrick will not have to do too much work to get back in that pack, and that's what you want.
So he slots back in, and now we're just kind of getting to these second riders for most of these teams. Here as we are through 19 laps scored.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot more exchanges happening, especially on the front stretch right now. You see Feist going for their first exchange.
Forrest as well. And along with Sigma Chi here on the near side. A lot of bike-to-bike exchanges as well.
Yeah, so there's 2 different kinds of exchanges, a rider exchange and a bike-to-bike. So each team has 2 bikes. When you do a rider exchange, you're only changing the rider because both riders can ride the same seat height. When you're doing a bike-to-bike, you're actually switching out that bike because the riders cannot ride the same seat height.
And for Feist, it is Eric Merker getting on the bike in his second race, a junior out of Arlington Heights, Illinois. And it looks like Effandi now coming in. They have had a very solid race here through 20 laps scored.
Yeah, that was a great exchange, great burn. Effandi's going to slap back right at the front of the pack. That's what you like to see.
Now, do you think this pack will kind of come back together once all these exchanges are kind of through for this second time?
I think so. You know, this is a pretty fast start to the race. You already see several teams off the back. That's good. That's good for the top tier teams. They don't want those riders there. They don't want to deal with them. They don't want them in the pack. So they're happy. They want them out of there so they can have a safer race.
And it looks like Phi Delta Theta also setting up for an exchange here on the near side.
This is interesting. People are chasing people's burns a lot this year. That's why the race is so fast. You don't see that every year. A lot of years, some people just don't want to chase, want to make the race slow.
And it's Nick Price getting on the bike for Phi Delta Theta. Jeff Beaumont coming off. So about a 22-lap set for Jeff Beaumont. That is a team that has some experience. Austin Curtis as well. All of them have raced before. So we'll definitely keep our eye on Phi Delta Theta as they start out of the 3 spot here today.
Yeah, you see Blackie, Boles, Zach Mears is working his way to the front. He took a little bit of time in the back, but he's up at the front. That's what you like to see.
And also right there on the front of the pack is Matt Cooper, who Eddie talked about earlier. Just a tremendous story. Cannot recommend it enough, actually, in the IDS online. Definitely make sure you check out his story. We're also getting our first look at SAE up there as well. Now, that's a team that has lost a lot. They still do have Rob Krahulik in there.
Yeah, Rob Krahulik's 2 older brothers were on SAE together, Joseph Krahulik and Andy Krahulik. They were 2 of the best riders in the last 5 years, so you know he's getting a lot of advice from them. I think this is his 3rd race, maybe 2nd, so he's an experienced rider. He's strong. I think they had a little bit. They lost some talent last year, but look for them to have a strong race. They're very knowledgeable.
Yeah, this is Krahulik's 2nd as a sophomore out of Indianapolis, and SAE has had a Krahulik in the race every year since 2012. So that is a team that just kind of lives and breathes Krahuliks, I guess.
Yeah, the Krahulik family loves Little 5. You love to see families like that.
Yeah, we've seen Joe Krahulik around the race during ITTs and through many of the Spring Series events as well.
But Joe Krahulik has the second fastest ITT time of all time. He graduated last year, but you know he's telling his little brother Joseph what he needs to do this year. So you see things are starting to slow down a little bit. You see things are bunching up. Before they had the strung out riders, now everything's coming together. People are going 4, 5, 6 riders wide. Things are slowing down. People aren't exchanging as hard now, so they're not getting those burns.
Are you surprised at how kind of wide this pack is right now as well? Looks like it's about 4 bikes wide.
Yeah, as a rider, you don't want it to be like this, especially as a strong team. But it is what it is because teams don't want to pull through now. They don't want to be doing the work. They want to be sitting on people's wheels in that draft. When you're in the draft, you're saving approximately 30% of your energy there. So, of course, you want to sit in that draft. You don't want to be at the front, especially in the wind, working too hard. So you'll see teams kind of try to fall back a little bit and not pull through and make other people do the work.
It looks like we're also getting a look at 3PH there up in the front. First time we mentioned them today. They started out of the 21st spot. Potentially another one of those teams that could make some noise in this race as an independent team.
Yeah, they're a newer team. They've only been around since, I think, 2014, but they've had some great success. They had a 5th place finish in that time span, so look for them to have a good race.
Now through 27 laps scored here at the 69th Men's Little 500. on just a beautiful day. Maybe the wind picking up just a little bit, but overall pretty good. How do you see this track holding up? It looks like it's still in fairly decent condition.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit dry. The sun's out, so late in the race you might see turns starting to deteriorate a little bit. You already see a little bit dust coming out in turn 1. So it didn't rain yesterday, so the track didn't get that moisture in it, but it looks like it's holding up pretty well right now.
Last year it was turn 1 that there was quite a bit of dust throughout the race.
Yeah, when you see that dust start kicking up, that's when you know things start getting wobbly. It's very interesting. Little 5 is very interesting because the track conditions play a huge factor on race day. There's more crashes. You can't simply go as fast when the turns are like that because you're fishtailing a lot. So hopefully it won't be too much of a factor today, but it will likely deteriorate throughout the day.
And the first set is done for Matt Cooper of Fiji. He passes the bike off to Andrew Ross in his first race, a junior out of West Lafayette. And Fiji has rode a pretty good race so far here as we're approaching 30 laps scored. And now we're starting to see teams being asked to move to the outside a little bit as 3PH currently in the top spot.
You see Chappie Blackwell waving that orange and blue flag like we talked about earlier. It's really important for those teams to get out of the way though, because if you're coming up on if the pack's coming up on you and they're going faster than you, then that's going to cause crashes.
And now we send it down to Eddie Cotton, who has an interview.
Thank you very much, Josh. I'm here with Randy Strong, an alum of Cutters, who's been through so much in his Lil 500 history. Can you just tell everyone at home your story and how you got involved with Lil 5?
Well, I was recruited by the Delta Chi team back when I was a freshman. I came down, and they were the two-time winning team of the Little 5 at the time. And I was trying to make the team as a freshman. They were all fifth-year and fourth-year seniors, and I'm out riding with these guys every day. And unfortunately, I wasn't eligible to ride the race that year with Delta Chi, but I was able to ride my sophomore year, and we lost in a photo finish to the Phi Delta Theta team in 1982. And then we went to a junior year, and I was the only returning rider the junior year, and I had to put together a whole new team, and we were trying to make the race as the 4-time winner of the Little 5, and we didn't make the race that year. So it was like the ultimate disappointment in trying to make this race and not even make the race because it was a fluky weather day, and we ended up going last in the day on an ice track trying to qualify, and everybody else had qualified earlier on a really nice day. So we go back our senior year. It's my last shot at making this race happen for myself as a goal to win the race. And 3 of my teammates were ineligible to ride for the Delta Chi team that year, and so I decided I had to leave and go with those guys. And we got a call from Eddie Van Gys and Randy Reisinger, who were the legend coaches at the time. Eddie Van Gys was the bad guy Italian in the movie Breaking Away, and he said, if you guys are going to go off, you got to be the Cutters. There's no doubt about it. You got to be the Cutters. And so what we did was we went to the foundation and said, we're going to be the Cutters. We brought the movie to life by winning that year in 1984. And ever since then, we're the winningest team in the history of the race. And this is going for 14 this year if we win today.
And now what is it like seeing Cutters having so much success in the last couple of years and being an alumni to experience that?
It's almost a fairy tale, because we have had a program that is just so strong. The alumni come back every year. We've got more rings shining in the background than any other team in the history of the race. We've got a great program. Jim Kirkham has been a stable coach here for multiple years of those victories, and a continuous thread of knowledge that's been passed on through that time period.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out today.
Thank you very much, Eddie. A lot of interesting stories there from the Cutters team. And there were some exchanges here on the near side, and Blackie Boles was one of them.
Yeah, you saw Jay Rosati come into the pack, and he impeded one of the other riders. You saw BKB's judge pull Ryan Knapp, their coach, over to talk to him. I don't think they're going to get a penalty, but they definitely got a strong warning.
So we'll keep our eye on that. Definitely something that you don't normally see from such an experienced team as Blackie Boles, but this year just one experienced rider. A lot of these guys waiting their turn. I think you can kind of attest to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You have those jitters. That was Jay Rosati's first little 5. His first exchange didn't go the way he might have wanted it to, but that's what the nerves come in.
So right now we are seeing NEH cycling at the front of the pack right now. Cutters following behind them, and Feist right there in third. And Griego also looking to exchange coming off the front, and I think NEH trying to follow that.
Yeah, you see the pack slowing down a little bit. Anytime there's a bunch of exchanges, people will fall them out, so the race will get faster, but then as teams settle in, they kind of slow down the race a little bit.
And it looks like we're also getting a new exchange here on the front stretch with Phi Delta Theta. Looks like that's Chase Whitler, the senior out of Evansville, riding in his 3rd race. Nick Price coming off the bike. So we've seen 3 riders now from Phi Delta Theta: Jeff Beaumont, Nick Price, and Chase Whitler. We have not seen Austin Curtis, who is riding in his 4th race here today. Might be saving him potentially for the end. And it looks like there is a Blackie Boles rider heading over to the medical tent. It looks like that's Robert Strobel. Went behind the medical tent. We'll keep our eye on him.
I'm not sure what he would be doing over there. You see the race is stringing out right now. You see that pack is no longer bunched. It's a straight line. Everybody is right behind each other. You see them coming through turn 1. There's starting to be a lot of dust kicking up that. That could be a future storyline if that keeps happening.
We're through 38 laps scored as we approach the quarter mark of this race.
And so when I was talking about turn 1 with that dust, basically the track starts to deteriorate. The cinders start to get more loose. And so when you're coming through there and you see that dust come up, that's when it's dry, and that's when you come through, your back wheel fishtails, you're not as steady, and that's when teams start to crash.
And in exchange for Cutters, Patrick Coulter coming off the bike, riding in his 3rd race. Victor Grossling, a 5th-year senior, riding in his 1st race today. He is the only new rider for Cutters this year here in 2019.
You see Effandi setting up for another exchange.
I believe that's Colton Rainier on the bike.
Looks like a lot of teams are following that one out. See, what you'll see with these backstretch teams is they'll follow out those front stretch teams when they're doing their exchange, and then they'll do one more half lap and get it into their pit, but they want to follow those front stretch teams out to save a little bit of energy. So you're seeing a lot of backstretch teams exchanging right now.
That was Blake Castetter coming on to the bike for Effandi. So now it looks like the pack kind of coming back together a little bit. Do you think that's just kind of nature of the race, it kind of stringing out and coming back?
Yeah, the race is kind of like a yo-yo. It gets really fast, and it gets really slow, and it gets really fast. It's kind of like an accordion effect. You'll see it go up and back. And those are the times when you see crashes. That's when you have your head on a swivel, is when it starts to slow down. It's because that's when everybody bunches up. But you'll see that throughout the race.
And we're seeing teams like Cutters kind of just right in the middle of the pack. Are some of these leaders just not wanting to pull through, or is that just kind of another nature of the race, just kind of hanging in there? It looks like there was a crash there on the back stretch with an exchange. I think that was CSF as they try to get back in.
Yeah, you'll see some teams are not really wanting to pull through right now. And that can be a really great strategy. I mean, if you don't have to pull, you shouldn't. You're saving energy, flying under the radar, because then later in the race you can launch a big attack and you're more rested when other teams have been pulling all day and they're more tired. That's how a lot of teams will start to break away.
And you just saw NEH make an exchange there. This has been a good early race for them. And it looks like Theta Chi also setting up for an exchange here on the near side. So NEH, a pretty sizable lead here early on. We'll see how much they can sustain that coming out of the 11th spot. And it's Reed Geiger on the bike in his second race. And it's Akil Patel coming onto the bike for Theta Chi as they make an exchange. We appreciate you tuning in from wherever you are tuning in today. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure to comment. We've already seen some people from the UK, from Thailand. It is great to see the international effect that this race has on just a beautiful day here in Bloomington.
Looks like the pack's going to roll up on Nick's English Hut and NEH Cycling. I think they just kind of found themselves off the front. They weren't really trying to attack. They just had a good exchange.
And Bears right now also working their way up. They're an interesting team. Starting from that 12th spot, it was Caleb Langley on the bike. A lot of Bloomington guys on that team, and I caught up with them this spring to find out a little bit more about Bears cycling.
Sunday morning in early February, and Bears has fueled up with pancakes and coffee for a late morning ride through the streets of Bloomington, a town that this group of townies knows quite well. The town is partly the reason for why this group of riders are on the same team.
It's just kind of how we all came together, because one of our past teammates is from Bloomington and we knew him, so that's how we got onto the team instead of like reaching out to other people.
And after the team lost funding as Wright Cycling, the name Bears comes from Mother Bears, the pizza establishment who sponsors the team, another connection to this team's hometown.
It spoke more true to us since most of us are townies, and having Mother Bears as our sponsor is a pretty big deal for us.
Bloomington and the Little 500 have forever gone hand in hand. And when you grow up with the race in your backyard every April, there's always a special connection to it.
It is a part of the Bloomington community, the Bloomington kind of IU lore, I guess. Like you hear about the world's greatest college weekend or something like that. So there's that immediate draw, but then you like learn more about Little Five as a whole and as like a Little Five as a community of bike racers.
It's a big event at IU, so you grow up here, you can't go without hearing about Little 500s.
Bears have finished in 6th and 7th place respectively in the last two races. Now in 2019, the team is aiming to climb even higher. But for this group of Bloomington kids, the town in which they grew up in is a big part of the makeup of the team.
I'd say like the original identity of the team was like something like grassroots townies, you know, just trying to live their life here in Bloomington and like make their story being around the race forever.
Having a good team dynamic with everybody is huge for us, and because that way, you know, it is a team sport, and if you all are willing to work for each other, then it really comes together on race day.
So Bears cycling looking pretty good here early on, holding down the 9 spot as we speak. Last year a 7th place finish when they called 14th. They do have a few returning riders as well this year and a lot of Bloomington flavor to this team.
Yeah, you love to see the Bloomington team having Mother Bears as a Bloomington staple be their sponsor.
They have never won the Little 500. Formerly they were Wright Cycling. And now we're seeing a number of exchanges here on this near side. Faisai, Forrest, and Sigep all coming in for exchanges. And it looks like it is Andrew Laval coming onto the bike, the freshman, the brother of Albert out of Clarendon Hills, Illinois. And now it's the first time we're seeing Jet Black at the front.
You still see NEH Cycling is still off the front. They have about a straightaway lead. I'm not sure if they're committing to this and trying to have a breakaway attempt, or if they just kind of found themselves off the front and are seeing what can happen with it.
And now he's trying to just follow that wheel that's just kind of out there right now as one of the lap teams, as Cutter's now coming in for an exchange on the near side.
This is a pretty early attempt. See, Jet Black and NEH are working together on the front stretch. It looks like they're starting to get close, working their way, a full straightaway lead, working their way to maybe a half lap if they keep it up. This is pretty early to go. it's tough to go this early because if you're not going to lap the field, it's really tough to stay away off the front for over 150 laps. So if they're going to commit, they're trying to lap the field right now.
Well, that's a bold strategy. We'll see if it pays off.
Yeah, it's definitely a bold strategy this early in the race.
Oh, we saw it last year with Beta, but that was around 160, 170 in that area.
Yeah, and even that's a little early, but they almost stayed away with it, coming back together within like the last 5 laps.
Oh, and we saw it yesterday in the women's race, a team going way off the front, and it didn't really work out for them in the end with ski.
Yeah, it was an awesome day for them. Started an early tack, like around lap 20, blew up the entire race. Very exciting.
And we will be talking, hopefully, with Lauren Britt of Teeter. She was on the bike there at the end.
Looks like we have an exchange from Jay Rosati to Xavier Martinez, BKB's strongest rider. This is his 4th race. He's about to step into his last little 500. Let's see what will come from him. In the past couple years that Xavier's raced, he hasn't done a lot of laps. In 2017, when BKB won, he rode less than 25 laps, but I would think that he's going to do a lot more work today since the team is not as strong through their 4th rider this year.
How long do you think this set could be for Xavier?
I'm thinking it's probably going to be around 15 to 20 laps. I would say you're probably going to see about...
And it looks like there is some commotion there on the back stretch. I think Feist was
yellow flag
tangled up in that, and we have our first yellow flag of the day. So a few teams caught up with that right on the back stretch. And it looks like there is a rider down just off the track. And there's another look at it there.
Ooh.
Looks like Black Ice and Delta Chi for sure messed up in that one.
So this is going to be interesting. Nick's English Hut and Jet Black are pretty far off the front, and this is going to let them rest up. So when you see that green flag, they're going to see the green flag a half lap before.
It just looks like somebody went down there in the back. A lot of tri-colored jerseys there, but the yellow flag is out.
So the rider is going to have to hold their position to the leader. So right now the leaders is Jet Black, so the pack has to hold their position to them. This is going to be interesting. They're going to get some rest on the bike, and they're going to see that green flag before the rest of the pack does, and you can see them try to hit it pretty hard to make this gap. It's getting close to a half lap now.
So Feist was not in that one, just mixing up colors there, but we are getting an exchange here on the near side from Sigma Chi during this caution, and we'll get at least this lap to be another yellow flag lap. And also currently 26 teams on the lead lap. It seems like a pretty big number here as we are past the quarter mark, and we are back to green flag racing. Here's the leaders, Jet Black and NEH, come across the start-finish line.
Yeah, so the pack did a pretty good job of knowing that the green flag was flown, but this lead is getting close to a half lap. It looks like NEH and Jet Black are really hammering right now. They are definitely trying to commit to this move.
And now we send it down to Eddie Cotton, who has a guest. He is still trying to get his guest. We'll send it back down to him in just a moment. And now we'll send it back down to Eddie Cotton. Eddie.
Thanks, Josh. I'm here with Luke Mumper, who's got plenty of history in the Little 500. What do you remember about your experience?
Oh, man. Just about everything. Sorry, I got to keep an eye on these guys. I think we're exchanging now, so I got to pull the bike. Give me 1 minute.
All right, great interview. See you later.
Well, that is live TV at its finest right there, folks. And he is, I think, the mechanic there for Jet Black. So, you know, when you got to go, right?
Yeah, you love to see it from the mechanic. He's committed to his team.
And it looks like Theta Chi coming in for an exchange here on the near side.
So you see Jet Black is exchanging in turn 2 right now. They have a little bit of a lead on NEH. We'll see if they're going to continue working together. It looks like NEH is going to blow right past Jet Black. I don't really love that strategy. If they're going to try to do this, it's a heck of a lot easier to do it together. But they are not riding together right now. Wow, if you look at this, they're about to be on the same straightaway as the pack.
How long do you think this can be sustained?
If they can get onto the end of the pack, they can sit there the rest of the race because they have a lap up on everybody else, so everybody else is going to have to earn that lap back.
So we're seeing teams like Bears and CSF and 3PH all a lap behind now. So this will be very, very interesting to see kind of what happens here as we are through now 58 laps scored. So 59 laps scored. So now a number of teams over a lap back right now.
I think the pack is starting to realize that NEH has a bit, and Jet Black have a big gap. They're starting to really go hard now. They need to chase that down.
And now we send it back down to Eddie Cotton.
All right, we're back. We're here to give it another shot. What do you remember about your little 500 experience?
Oh man, just about everything. Some of the more fond memories have to be just about all the friendships that we made. You know, everybody asks, you know, what's the biggest thing about Little 5, and I think it's really the community. For the most part, you know, everybody thinks it's really competitive, but you know, 364 and a half days of the year, we're all best friends. And I mean, even during the race, we're, you know, consistently hanging out, talking and laughing. And it's really not until the last like 10 or 15 laps until we really get serious and people, you know, get a little chippy. But for the most part, just a lot of the friendships, a lot of the race. You know, everything centers around this, but everybody's, you know, so gung-ho all year long. It's a really cool community.
You're here with Jet Black. What do you think of how the team is performing right now, and what's it like to come back as alumni?
So as alum, it's kind of bittersweet. You miss it. You want to be out there. It's weird not having any control over what you're, you know, helping out with, but I'd rather be a part of it than not, you know. Coming back as an alum, it's great. We're performing really well right now. We're off the front. I think we're probably going to try to lap the field here if we can do it, which would be a first in team history. So just kind of, you know, depends on what the race throws us, so have to see how this plays out.
Perfect. Thank you. Best of luck. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Eddie. And now we are pleased to be joined in the booth up here atop Bill Armstrong Stadium press box. Rick Van Kooten, now the new dean of the College of Arts and Sciences here at Indiana University. Rick, welcome up to the broadcast booth.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're glad to have you up here. You're obviously the father of Caitlin Van Kooten, yes, who was in Charlie's seat yesterday. Yes. I guess what's it like to be around this little 500?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic experience. Just seeing like how hard these teams work. Like a big chunk of the teams start training in September. Treats them, you know, they learn discipline, just camaraderie, you know, teamwork. It's just a fantastic experience. And then the excitement, especially if
absolutely.
You know, if your daughter does very, very well, it's fantastic. It's really.
I guess what was it like? What was it like being around the race when Caitlin was in it?
Oh, it's like it goes on all the time. Then you go to all the fall events, the spring events. You see people out in the road when you're riding yourself. You get to know all the, you know, at least, you know, the girls on the team, the girls on the other team. It's just a wonderful experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, an interesting race so far, kind of similar to the, I guess, women's race a little bit with the team going way off the front.
Yeah,
I guess
they're not chasing them so much.
So how much are you kind of in tune with race strategy and kind of what these teams are trying to do?
Oh, quite a bit. Just working and just talking with Caitlin and the teeter team before. We're yelling a lot either from the sidelines behind the pit or up in the stands.
Absolutely. Now you're wearing a Cutter shirt up here. Is
yes.
that the team you're kind of pulling for today?
Yes. I always consider them to be the men's equivalent of teeter.
Okay.
That's fair.
They're an independent team that they're always competitive. always working hard, and they, they're good friends on both sides.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What's it like watching the race when your daughter's not in it? Is it a little bit of a different perspective?
A lot more relaxing.
Yeah.
But the women's race yesterday was really, really enjoyable. It was really great. The fact that Ski jumped off made it a race.
Right.
Nobody likes it when they just sit in a pack and they're waiting for like the sprint. That was not a good race at all.
Right.
Yeah.
To have the top 4 or 5 teams fighting, trying to chase down Ski, was just great. And then everybody coming back on the last 10 laps. That was just a really, really great race. One of the better races we've seen.
You love to see those 3-team sprints. I feel like those are always the most exciting. And I think Teeter did such a great job of playing that sprint. It's awesome to see them the first time they won since Caitlin was on the bike, right?
Oh, yeah. No, and that one, it was like, well, you could see Teeter being on DG's wheel for about 2 laps. And so like, that helped enormously.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Give her a break.
Now, this is such a big event for Indiana University every year, but I guess what does this mean for the university to put on events as unique as the Little 500?
Well, the fact that, you get these huge crowds and, that all the families and then all the students, the fraternities and sororities coming out for your independence, it's definitely a tradition both for the university and for Bloomington as a whole. People know Bloomington because of that, particularly other cyclists. It's wonderful for that. If you're talking to people and they hear you're from Indiana University and they know your ride, immediately they'll ask you about that.
Yeah. Little 500, absolutely. And this year, obviously, people outside of Bloomington know it breaking away, the 40th anniversary of it this year.
Yeah.
So that is also a very cool tie here to the race this year.
Actually, one of the good experiences was motor pacing the girls, like the famous scene from the movie with the truck.
With
that
the
was
truck,
great.
absolutely.
Going through the forest on that
forest.
road.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
How fast would you get them up to?
Oh, over 20 miles an hour, 25.
That's awesome.
They don't work hard. That's not so flat. It's hard for them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Easier to just press that pedal down and get going a little bit.
Make them suffer.
Yeah, right.
So as you kind of watch this race develop, what are you looking for when you're watching a Little 500?
Oh, just gaps developing. Somebody jumping off the front and at least a small enough group to survive going through. And where are we actually?
So some more exchanges here on the near side. We're now through 69 laps scored of the 69th men's Little 500. Jet Black and NEH really pushing this pace right now, way out in front of everything.
Yes, you see them coming from through the start-finish line now. Looks like they have about a 25-second gap right now. I think it got up to close. They were on the same straightaway for a little bit. The pack kind of realized it. They've gathered themselves, and they're definitely bringing it back. We'll see if they how long it will take them to actually catch on. So 16-second gap right now. It got up past 20 seconds. So they're definitely reeling it in. We'll be interested to see if Jet Black and NEH do another attempt or if they're just going to kind of let it come back together.
Well, Rick, we really appreciate you coming up, spending a few minutes with us.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Good luck to Cutters and enjoy your race day.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Rick Van Kooten, the new Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences here at IU. And now we're going to learn a little bit more about forest cycling.
Duncan is a part of a team that stands alone. The leader of the Forest cycling team is the only leader that heads a men's team sponsored by a residence hall this year, a task that certainly comes with its struggles.
I mean, a challenge, of course, is we're not going to get the same amount of funding as a Greek team or a major local establishment.
But it also has its benefits.
We are guaranteed at least some amount of money each year. Even if it's just a tiny little bit, it's something. Versus a business can say, nah, we don't really want to sponsor you anymore, and you're out in the street without anything.
Beyond those direct impacts Forest sponsorship has, there's another crucial obstacle teams must hurdle in order to race: actually constructing a team. Forest has no Greek affiliation or local business to promote with. So, how does Hank get people interested? The old-fashioned way: getting the word out to the residents of Forest.
Like as a freshman, when you come in, you want to, the two things that you know as a student are Indiana basketball and a little 500. And I want to get those students out there, see the race, experience it, and have a team to root for.
In fact, almost all residence teams have few to no riders from that specific residence hall, a trend that has existed for a little while now.
Dorm team started back in the 50s and 60s when people actually lived in the dorm, but that disappeared very quickly because, as you said, it's really hard to recruit from this one little base of people. Just to keep these dorm teams alive, you have to recruit from outside.
For IU Sports Media, I'm Michael Dugan.
So Forest cycling, trying to kind of creep back up into this race. They started in the 4th spot, but they have fallen back a little bit, and the pack has really caught up here as NEH and Jet Black now really just kind of leading this pack now.
Yeah, the pack is completely back together, but it's a lot smaller now. You're seeing 12 teams approximately on the lead lap in that pack. That's great for the race. You want to have some of those teams make those early attacks so that it thins out the pack and makes it a little safer.
And right now they're at the front is SAE, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, and that is Rob Krahulik on the bike. We expect to see a lot of Krahulik today. A very strong rider, one of the top ones in ITTs this year. He's the only rider with race experience, and he is just a sophomore. Falling behind Phi Kappa Psi and Jet Black. What do you think of Phi Kappa Psi so far today? It looks like they've been kind of hanging in there.
Absolutely. They're doing great today. It looks like Albert Laval, they're top riders on the bike right now. You're going to probably see him have to eat up a bunch of laps today. Which will be interesting to see what their end of race strategy is, but they're doing great so far.
Phi Delta Theta, the team that started in the 3rd spot, now in 14th. So they will have some work to do, and there are a bunch of other teams starting to fall over a lap behind here.
We see Mother Bears is about a half lap down from the main pack. That's a team we got to look out for to see if they can claw their way back. If they can get back and get on that last lap, they definitely have a shot at winning. So let's see how they're going to get back to that pack.
So 76 laps have been scored. Now 77 here as the pack crosses the start-finish line. Griego at the top, followed by Bears, and Gafambi also right behind. So we've seen a lot of Gafambi as well today. They've run a fairly good race, and it looks like they're trying to set up for an exchange. Colton Rainier is waiting.
Yeah, we have 3 exchanges happening within 3 pits on the front stretch here. Hopefully they can keep that together and not have any crashes.
It's Acacia, Fiji, Gafambi. And it looks like
Pi Kappa Alpha too.
And now 3PH out in front.
Looks like that front group is going really hard right now. You see Fight was only a straightaway down at first, but now they're starting to get closer to a half lap. We'll see if they can get back to the pack as well. Looks like there's only 7 teams in that front pack right now.
Blackie, Boles, and Cutters both up there as well. I've been impressed by NEH today. They've spent a lot of time there on the lead lap, but it'll be interesting to see how much they can kind of keep up and keep in this race.
Yeah, that early race breakaway attempt was interesting because they definitely tired their legs out. They definitely spent some matches, as we say. Curious to see if at past 175 if they're still on the lead pack, but it looks like they're doing great. It looks like it didn't affect them too badly.
And as we reach kind of now 80 laps in the books, as a rider, I guess, what's your mindset at this point? Obviously, this is kind of that gap that people talk about. You just kind of have to hang in there.
This is kind of that intermission period. 50 to 150 is, sometimes there's some small attacks. Sometimes people try to sneak their way off the front. But this is what's really important right now is to conserve energy, keep your head up, don't crash. But you can't do too much good right now, but you can definitely do bad.
So we'll see how many teams can stay in there. 22 teams are on the lead lap as we stand. Now through 80 laps scored. We're seeing a decent amount of change kind of in that pack. SAE has fallen back a little bit, 3PH as well. But those are all teams that have been up at the front at some point today.
Yeah, it looks like the pack's slowing down. People are kind of tired through that breakaway attempt. You'll probably see things start to bunch up a lot now, and some of those teams that are off the back, like, are going to claw their way back. You saw Feist was able to get back on the pack. They were over a straightaway down, but the pack slowed up, and they were able to grab on.
Grey Goat right now sitting in 11th.
We still have Mother Bears is in the middle of turn 1 and 2. Pack's going into 3. It looks like they're going to have a good shot right now to get back onto that pack while things are slow.
At what point do you think teams are going to try to push ahead and really leave some of these teams in the dust?
I think we might see another breakaway attempt around like 120, then maybe one around 150, 160. Usually those two attempts do not get away. It's just too soon. But what's important about that 150 to 160 breakaway attempt is the counterattack after that. So we'll see what happens between now and then, but I definitely think that some of these teams are going to try to sneak their way off the front again.
So we will keep our eyes on that.
It looks like Feist is making a little bit of a push. I'm not really sure if he's committing to this, but it looked like he was in exchange and he didn't, but I think they're going to bring in a new rider later.
I think on the lap previously, he mentioned to his pit that he mentioned something. I think it might have been this. Maybe he wanted to do one more lap to gain a huge lead.
And he is. He's straight away up now. We'll see if they're going to commit to this attack or not. So they're readying for an exchange right now coming out of turn 4. Curious to see if their coach in the pit is telling them to go for it or not.
So Albert Laval coming off the bike. It's Jack Warner now onto the bike, and they have built themselves quite a lead. And Phi Delta Theta also coming in. Chase Whitler onto the bike.
Looks like Cutters is off the front too. I'm not sure if they're going to try to grab that Feist burn or if they're just getting ready for an exchange soon. All right, he looks like he's slowing down, letting the pack catch him.
But Feist, a good amount of a lead right now.
Yeah, it looks like they have over a straightaway lead now. Okay, so Feist, looks like Feist coach is signaling to the rider to keep it steady. Don't go too fast. It's important in these breakaways. It's like you have to keep steady laps. You want to get a big gap for that rider. That first rider gets a big gap, but then it's like you want to keep steady laps so that you can keep extending the lead without having to exchange.
Is it hard to keep those steady laps though?
It's absolutely hard to keep those steady laps. It's very tough. It's important to keep it consistent, because as soon as you exchange, you're losing 4, 5, 6 seconds, and that's when the pack's going to catch you. It looks like Blackie Boles is ready for an exchange on the next lap, and it looks like he's going to pull the pack with him.
So it's really stringing out here.
And I think a lot of teams are either going to exchange or they're going to shoot that gap and get to Feist. Great job of BKB rider awareness. Made that gap a little bit bigger. It's important to not exchange when the whole pack is on your wheel. You want to get that gap so that the next rider isn't off the back when he gets on.
So Robert Strobel coming off the bike, Zach Mears onto the bike. Both first-year riders here in the Little 500. So we've kind of see it bunch up, then string out, and then bunch back together. It's just kind of been a pattern so far in this race.
Yeah, that's bike racing for you, the accordion effect. Things get fast and things get slow. That's why it's important to keep your head up, make sure you don't get caught in any crashes.
And now Cutter's also setting up for an exchange.
Well, this is going to be interesting.
Oh, he's going to bring it in.
So Victor Grossling is getting on the bike and Patrick Coulter is getting off. Looks like a lot of teams went after that burn. Cutters are definitely a target in this race. Whenever they exchange, other teams want to follow those burns out so that the next rider has to work a little bit harder. they are definitely the favorite today, so other teams want to make them hurt and try to take them out of the race.
Now, is it like riders come together and say we want to target cutters, or is it just because they're wearing that yellow jersey?
I mean, the yellow jersey speaks for itself. Definitely, anytime you're in yellow, you have a big target on your back, especially with cutters this year, since not only they're in yellow, but they are also the favorites. They have a very strong team. But yes, some teams will talk in the pack when they see cutters going to, hey, let's get together, let's follow that out, let's make them hurt.
And now let's send it down to the field and Eddy Cotton, who has a special guest.
Thanks, Josh. I'm here with Joe Krahulik, famous alum of SAE. You're back here to see the race. What's the experience like seeing your brother Rob compete?
It's great to be on the other side. I thought I'd be sad coming back out here because part of me wants to be on the other side of this fence, but it makes me so proud to see these guys performing at a high level, and especially it being my little brother. It's something I really can't put into words.
Now, what are your thoughts on how this race is going so far and how SAE has been performing?
Yeah, we're happy with how it's going so far. That early break with Nix and Jet Black got out to about 3/4 of a lap. Big gap that we didn't have to pull back, not our responsibility this year. So we got a free ride with the main pack, and it's kind of forced a selection of maybe 15 teams so far that we're pretty stoked to be in.
Now that you're an alum and you've seen the Little 500 as a fan perspective, what are some of your memories when you think about your experience in the Little 500?
You don't remember the race, for one thing. The race just happens in a flash, but it's all the practices at the track, all the winter rides, whether it's inside or outside with the teammates, that you just can't replace any of those.
Perfect. Thank you. Best of luck.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Ed.
Thank you very much, Eddy. Joe Krahulik out here watching his brother Rob, and SAE running a fairly good race. We've seen them in the top 10 here a little bit, but they were starting from the 28th spot, so a lot of work to try to get back up to the front.
Absolutely, they've done a great job today. Joe is right when it was not their responsibility to pull that team back, and that's a really important role to play for like a dark horse team. Is they're not responsible in the pack to pull those things back, so they just get a free ride when things are blowing up. We've seen teams win in the past with that strategy.
And we're seeing Phi Kappa Psi and Jet Black along with Griego there up at the front. So teams have come back and they have caught Phi Psi.
So Phi Psi is back. Everybody's come back together. Looks like we have cutters on the front right now.
Oh, we have Phi Psi here is just 3 riders. 3 or 4 riders there in that, I guess, lead pack, but the main peloton is a little bit farther behind.
Yeah, interesting that Phi Psi is with Jet Black in that pack, so Jet Black is going for it again.
So now we're seeing, so we're just seeing a little bit of changing at the top, and it looks like there's also some lap traffic in there as well.
Looks like Griego is in that pack as well.
Griego and Phi Psi. So it's those 2 teams that are at the front currently.
So this is interesting. These are some of the strongest teams that are in that front pack. Griego, as we said earlier, the Team Pursuit champions, and they have 3 other teams working with them to try to get away from this race. And you see the pack is now responding to it. It's stringing out. Cutters on the front trying to pull this back.
It's Andrew Laval on the bike for Phi Psi, and on the bike for Griego is the senior Billie Tsien, and we want to welcome in Eddy Cotton, who has more down on the field.
Thanks, Josh. Now, I just talked to Phi Psi and their mechanics and everyone in their area by their pit, and they told me that their approach, they completely understand it's a little aggressive early on, but their main idea is they want to avoid crashes, and this is a great way to do it, to stay at the front and just push yourself. They know they can't maintain it, but it's good to set them up for later, and they know that there's going to be other teams trying that same approach at some point in this race. Back to you, Josh.
Yeah, so NEH off the front for a while, and the pack is coming back together now. Cutters has been on the front for, I think, 3 laps now. They are committed to bringing this back, and it looks like they will in the next 1 or 2 laps. So everything's bunching up now. It's interesting, this pack is not willing to let anybody get away today. You don't normally see that every year. Sometimes people are willing to let teams get off the front for a little bit, maybe sit on their hands a little bit until it gets too far away and then come together. But it looks like the pack shut that one down really quickly. I think that's probably because they knew that Griego was in that pack. Being Team Pursuit champions, they're like, we cannot let them get out there because that could end in a lapped field.
So Feist is now fallen back into 4th place. Griego just behind him, Jet Black as well. And now we're getting some exchanges there on the backstretch, and it looks like Nick's tangled up in something back there along with Bears. They're right next to each other. I'm sure there'll be some words back and forth there. Another look at this one. Just close quarters back there.
Yeah, just a little bit of a stumble. That happens. That's. Looks like we had another bad exchange from Blackie Boles, as it looks Jay Rosati is getting on the bike. Wow, they lost a lot of distance on that exchange. It looks like Jay's going to hopefully bring that back together, but that was a little scary there for a second.
Obviously still plenty of time left in this race, but how much can those few seconds add up in the end?
Yeah, it's important, especially late in the race, to have those clean exchanges. Early on, it's not as big of a deal if you had a back exchange. You can shut it down. You can get back to the pack, but you are burning those matches every time you have to chase. And ideally, those matches are saved later when you're trying to break away or trying to make into the race decisions. You don't want to lose those matches.
So something to keep an eye on with Blackie Boles. Not the first time we have seen that today.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was the same 2 riders in exchange earlier that we had mistakes happen. So hopefully they can get that together for future exchanges.
So we'll see. We'll definitely keep an eye on that one. But now we want to welcome a guest up to the booth and a champion here as we cross the halfway point of this men's Little 500. But yesterday, Teeter bringing home the Little 500 on the women's side. We have Lauren Britt up here with us. Lauren, welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So yesterday, obviously very exciting for you crossing the finish line. What is that feeling like to cross the finish line and win a sprint as exciting as that was?
You know, I lost in a sprint last year, and my goal was to win in a sprint this year if it came down to it. I've been preparing for that all year. The win in the backstretch was brutal, but when the push came to shove, I think we were ready for it. It was the best feeling. I can really hardly put it into words.
So what was going through your mind those last few laps? It looks like you were kind of sitting on DG's wheel and really wanted to wait that out until right at the end. What was going through your head?
You know, Ski made a move around 98, and I think that it exhausted them. DG and I still had a little bit more energy left, and when it came down to 100, I was able to still sit there behind DG. Strong riders. I'm glad I was behind him and not in front of him, and I had more energy left at the end of the day to pull it off, I guess.
So was your plan to kind of tack out of turn 3, or is it just kind of, it was what it was, you just feeling out the bike race?
If there hadn't been any wind, it would have happened in turn 2, but with that wind, I knew I needed to wait a little bit just to be less risky. We came out really far in turn 4, further than I wanted to, but as soon as you're in the front stretch, it's even at that point.
Right.
And just watching this, I guess, men's race so far today, is it kind of nice to just kind of sit back and relax as now a Little 500 champion?
Yes. I'm a senior. I'm graduating. This is the best way to go out. I'm so excited to get to sit back and watch all my friends today. They're all doing a great job. I wouldn't be able to focus if my race were tomorrow, so props to all of the men for doing that every year.
Absolutely.
Who are you cheering for today?
I'm in the 3PH fan section
3PH.
today, but I have friends on all the teams, and I'm going to be happy for whoever pulls it out today.
Very political answer. I like that.
And just talking about this Little 500 community, obviously you're around them all year long. What is that going to be like moving forward, do you think?
The Little 500 community,
Yeah.
I'm excited to join as an alum. The alumni that Teeter has it runs deep, and they're so supportive of us riders, and I know that I'm joining another group now as a graduated member. Hoping that I'll end up in Bloomington after graduation, still trying to work that out and see if it can happen, but I hope that I can continue to be a role model for these girls even though I'm not riding anymore.
Absolutely. And what's it like to kind of look up to a rider like Caitlin, who was on the team the last time Teeter was able to win the Little 500?
I'm just glad that she's here today and yesterday. It was awesome to get to have her to literally look up to, knowing she was up here. You know, we have riders from every year back that are coming back to watch, and it's special. Special is the only word I can really say.
Well, Lauren, we really appreciate you coming up here, spending a few minutes with us. Enjoy this Little 500, and congratulations on the win.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you. So Lauren Britt of Teeter joining us in the booth, a Little 500 champion here on the women's side. But back here on the men's side, 3PH, one of the teams that she is rooting for here today, taking that top spot right now along with Beta Sigma Psi, a team out of the 26th spot.
Yeah, it looks like the pack is all together right now. 105 laps scored. So this is really when things start to get a little bit slower. Teams want to conserve their energy. Not a lot of, probably not a lot of attacks are going to happen now. It's just kind of eating up those laps and gearing up for laps 150 and on is what they're looking for now.
And Rob Krahulik getting back onto the bike for SAE.
Yeah, look at turn one. They came through that turn, and a lot of dust came up. Interested to see how that develops. Might see some crashes later on there.
It has been a pretty sunny day all day long. Some blue skies overhead. We thank you for tuning in wherever you are tuning in from. We've gotten a lot of international viewers, I guess, so far today out of the UK, Hong Kong, Thailand. It's really great to see the international appeal that this Little 500 has. And keep on commenting if you're on Facebook. We want to know where you are watching from. So 107 laps scored. We are past the midway point of this 69th men's Little 500.
Yeah, so the pack is bunching up a little bit. Like I said earlier, it's important to just keep your head up. But the pack does look a little bit dangerous, especially with turn one and in the dust. Hopefully these teams can avoid crashes. It's just important right now is don't crash. It looks like some teams are less willing to pull through. You see Blackie, Boles sitting fifth wheel, not really wanting to pull at all.
But Blackie Boles did get back after that botched exchange, as we thought they probably would.
Yeah, some of those exchanges are a little scary, but as long as it's early on in the race, it's okay. You just do not want that to happen late in the race.
Yeah, obviously different than the women's race. 200 laps here for the men, so a little bit more time to make up ground as we've seen some, I guess, a few mishaps here early on, but still just under half the race left.
Yeah, I don't like the pack bunching up right now as you see cutters come up the inside. This is where you want to get out of that middle. You either want to be on the inside or you, not ideally, but be on the outside so that you can avoid crashes as they happen. But when you're in that middle of that pack, you have nowhere to go if something happens on either side of you.
It looks like Effandi setting up for an exchange here on the near side. That's Sam Bradley. Scafambi here right off the front, and they will come in for this exchange, a bike-to-bike. So Bradley onto the bike, and we'll try to slot right back into the pack that now is starting to string out a little bit, kind of that accordion effect as you were mentioning.
Yeah, you see cutters are going off the front. It looks like they're going to do a bike-to-bike exchange as well. But you see, as we said earlier, cutters going off. Everybody wants to chase that.
So a Grey Goat exchange, an NEH cycling exchange. So now we're starting to get a few more. And on the near side as well, on this front stretch, Feist and Sigep also setting up for exchanges. Cutters as well up there. So it's Jack Warner onto the bike for Feist, and I believe that was Tom Settle coming onto the bike for Sig Ep.
It looks like Cutters had a big gap. The pack is bringing it back. I don't think they're trying to do any breakaway. They just found themselves off the front as the pack comes up to them now.
It's Greg Hubrechts there on the bike for Cutters.
Yeah, Greg is a champion from last year. I think this is his third Little 500. Strong rider, 7th place ITTs. He knows what's going on. He's a veteran. He's having a great race so far. Yeah, the pack is really slow right now. Things are really bunching up. You see it going out 5 widers ride.
Bears also coming in for an exchange now. They're on the back stretch. So we saw that little mix-up there with Bears and with NEH, but it looks like Bears, no problem. They are back out in front as they slot back into this pack.
Yeah, the pack is doing 44-second laps right now. That's definitely on the slower side. Teams don't want to pull. People are coming out 5 wide. This is probably the slowest the race has been so far.
And so far, the best lap is Feist at 30, just over 31 seconds. And they have run a very good race so far, keeping themselves in contention, starting out of that 2 spot. We saw Teeter out of the 2 spot yesterday. Maybe it's a lucky number, a lucky pit. They're number 2. Now 3PH coming off the front with a burn. Now, is it all these burns that will eventually just speed up this pack a little bit?
I think so. Right now, with everyone wanting to go slow, the only time the pack will speed up is if there's a burn that they want to chase, or if several teams are exchanging at the same time. Looks like Fidel is coming in for an exchange. Looks like Jeff Beaumont is about to get on the bike.
And now we send it down to Eddie Cotton, who has an interview in the BKB pit.
Thank you, Josh. I'm here with Kevin Mangle, an alum of Blackie Boles, and the man on the bike at the end of the race in 2017.
Yes.
How does it feel as you reflect back on that experience 2 years later now?
It's a lot. It's really special to come back and see Bloomington from a perspective, or from a. It's really special to come back and see see from a fan standpoint. You know, it's always, I got to ride in 2 races and be able to sit in the pit and ride in the race. But to be able to see back here and be with guys that I rode in the race with that are now still riding once I've graduated, it's pretty special.
You look at this team and this Blackie Boles cycling experience. How important is that alumni network with these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, it almost feels like every year I grow older with the program, it becomes more special. You know, you really appreciate your time you had in Bloomington, and especially with the Blackie Boles and the Little 500 and that community is really special and hard to find. So, like I said, every year out, it kind of gets more and more special.
And how you guys doing so far?
Pretty good. It's a pretty fun race so far. You know, some stuff happening, some people making some good moves. Everyone seems pretty comfortable, and it's a pretty good race so far. So excited to see what comes.
And what's that on your hand right there?
This is a ring from 2017.
Can you show it to the camera?
Go BKB.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
Back to you, Josh.
Thank you very much, Eddie. And his teammate, Kevin Mangle, Charlie Hammon right here, he's got his ring on as well. And definitely a fun race in 2017. It was Kevin Mangle that crossed the finish line. And another exchange coming from Blackie Boles here as we speak.
It looks like Robert Strobel just got on the bike. He is a sophomore in his first Little 500.
And he was number 3 in ITTs. Xavier Martinez number 1, Strobel number 3. But it's Cutters now at the front. Excuse me, at the front of the pack. NEH out in front as well. And it looks like Feist trying to come off the front now, setting up for an exchange on the near side when they come back around.
Yeah, you might see it on the camera that you see riders talk to each other. Sometimes it's just, hey, can I have that wheel? Can I go in front of you? Sometimes it's a little more negative than that if somebody's not pulling through. Especially you'll see veteran riders talk really poorly down to younger riders if they're not doing what they want them to do, people trying to manipulate each other. But you do have a lot of communication on the bike. It's important.
So Albert Laval on the bike now. Jack Warner off the bike for Feist. And in my opinion, I think Feist is running one of the best races so far. As we're getting some more exchanges here, it looks like now Jet Black trying to take almost a whole lap burn here.
Now you love seeing teams like Feist, who hasn't had a strong team in the last few years. You love seeing them having a good race day, bringing that program back in the fold. They're doing great today.
So a long burn here for Jet Black and Robert Oler, a junior out of New Albany, Ohio. And they have that first pit there in turn 2. And they come in for it there.
Cutters is doing a lot of time at the front today. I assume what they're just thinking is they want to stay out of trouble. They know if they can get to that last lap, they're very confident in their sprinter. So I think they're just trying to stay out of trouble, stay in the front. But you don't normally see teams pulling as much as they are right now.
Do you think they're willing to do that just because they're so strong this year?
I think so. I think it's partly because they're so strong and partly because as long as it's not their sprinter Noble on the front, the other guys can shoulder that load and just make sure that they can get themselves to the last lap.
Yeah, it's Greg Hubrecht still on the bike for Cutters as we speak. And Fiji is up there as well right now. Fiji out of the 13th spot. They've kind of been I don't want to say a dormant team, but they haven't really made a whole lot of noise in these races as of late, trying to get back up to that podium. A fraternity trying to get back up to the podium for the first time since Delta Tau Delta and Luke Tormelin won it in 2016.
Yeah, Fiji is one of those teams that has won many times in history, but recently haven't been as strong. But it looks like they're having a great race today. You see Cutters on the front again. He doesn't want to pull this time, though. He flicks his elbow, says, not right now. I just pulled 3 laps in a row. It's your turn now.
Still, though, 20 teams on the lead lap as we speak. 122 laps scored as Gafambi comes in for an exchange. And that is Jonathan Jaggard. Onto the bike for Gafambi. He was in that ITT heat with Tom Settle, along with Noble Gyein and Xavier Martinez, one of the premier heats in ITTs that night. It was a beautiful night for ITTs. Kind of everybody came to the fence for that heat. It was a pretty exciting one as Xavier Martinez just edged out Noble Gyein by less than a second to take home that ITT title.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see the Xavier versus Noble duel late in the race. It seems like both of their teams are trying to sit them out a decent amount and have their other 3 riders shoulder the loads that they're fresh for those late in the race laps.
And we kind of saw it last year, Xavier against Noble, but it was more Griego instead that was challenging Noble Gyein and Cutters.
Absolutely. That was an interesting sprint last year, and I know that it's going to be interesting to see how Xavier handles it this year and not letting Noble jump him so quickly. And we got Blackie, Boles on the lead, on the front, flicks his elbow to come off. You can tell just by their faces right now, they are not going very fast. Look at, they're going 4 wide right now.
So that Blackie Bulls rider was way out in front. Now he's kind of looking back. Is that just saying, I don't want to pull right now?
Absolutely. So you kind of do, as they say, your fair share at the front, maybe pull a straightaway, maybe a half lap, and then you flick that elbow, pull off to the right and say, hey, it's your turn. You go to the front. I'm going to draft now.
It's so interesting how that dynamic works because I guess you're all kind of working together as riders, but at the same time, you're still trying to cross the finish line first.
Absolutely. That's why these laps, these middle laps are so important. It's just doing your fair share, keeping the race going forward, but don't do too much so that you're too tired in the last 25 laps of the race. We scored through 125 laps now.
And it looks like NEH Cycling coming off now for a burn. That's a Reed Geiger on the bike, the senior out of Bloomington in his second race.
Yeah, see, look, the pack is content to just let that go off the front. They got a big gap on that exchange.
NEH, a team that has spent a lot of time at the top. They were in there with Jet Black when both those teams just tried to go off the front together.
Yeah, we'll see if they're just going to slot back in the pack or they're going to try to go again. It looks like they're content to come back towards the pack. Looking back, saying, hey, come catch me. I don't want to be here by myself.
And on the bike is Griffin Tishner, one of the better riders in this field.
Seems like the wind has really died down. There's little to no wind at all. That will be interesting late in the race.
It has turned out to be a beautiful day here for the 69th running of the Little 500. So many reasons for why some of these riders decide to ride in the Little 500. I caught up with two different riders, though, to find out why they ride.
Little 500 weekend is dubbed as the world's best college weekend and is centered around the biggest collegiate bike race in America. For every rider that has taken to the track in 68 previous races on the men's side, it all begins at Rookie Week, and the reasons for joining the race are all across the board.
I played Division I tennis out at LaSalle University my freshman year in Philadelphia, and just kind of when I transferred here, started losing that competitive spirit, just wanted a way to compete again.
I had a buddy on the Blackie Boles who's from my same hometown, and he's been trying to convince me for the last 2 years to join the team, since I've been cycling kind of just a little bit on my own. And so eventually this year he invited me to come out. I've been missing, having some kind of competition. So I came out, haven't looked back since.
Some have heard about the race like Mears, and others are fairly brand new to the whole thing, like Ward.
I've heard it's very well attended. I was here last year too watching, so got involved with it. Rode a little bit with the team just last spring after they were done racing. My first time hopping on a bike in a long time, and then kind of trained over the summer.
But for experienced riders such as Sig Ep's Tom Settle, who is also on Riders Council, it was about being a part of something special as to why he joined the race.
A lot of it for me was seeing the Riders Council, seeing how committed they were to it, seeing how much they loved it, the community that came with that, and also my team, like having a strong team with a lot of guys, pushing me to do it. It was something that I really didn't question.
After Rookie Week, that race preparation really heats up for that one day in April where the stands are packed and riders get set for those 200 laps.
I mean, this will be the biggest crowd I've ever done any sport in front of, even after transferring, so it'll be fun.
All the guys, we've got a great team. We've got a great alumni base that are super involved. It's a great coach in Ryan Knapp and some guys that really care about the program, so we've got a really good thing going.
So a few interesting stories there. Braden Ward did not make the Final Four riders for his team, but nonetheless an interesting story. Former D1 athlete, now turned bicycle racer.
So we're seeing the pack come out of turn 2, still going pretty slow right now, but the big question is, when is the race going to really pick up again? When does the race actually start? I would say a little bit past 150 is when teams are really putting their head on a stool and saying, where can I make a move? Where can I change the game in this race? So you'll see maybe another 20 laps of slow riding. Once it hits 150, that's when you got to keep your eyes peeled. That's when things are going to start happening. That's when the fireworks happen.
So it'll be interesting to see kind of when this does pick up. 132 laps scored. And now we have a new guest here up in the booth, Dan Funk, a Phi-Psi alum, coming back here in Bloomington. I guess just how's it feel to be back here in Bloomington watching Phi-Psi?
You know, there's no better thing in the world than to be in Bloomington on an April Saturday. Beautiful day, bunch of guys out tearing it up. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about here. We're saying Phi-Psi is riding maybe one of the best races so far. What have you seen from your vantage point?
Oh, thank you. We appreciate it. You know what? They're riding a smart race. You know, every year you don't win it in the first 99 laps, but so you got to stay in the race, be smart, get good wheels, and good lead outs and good exchanges. So they're doing a great job.
And I guess just what's it like to see Phi-Psi, I guess, back in contention, riding from the 2 spot today?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, so as you guys know, one of the storied programs in the whole history, 7 victories. We're looking for number 8, and we're really impressed and proud of these guys to bring our team back and doing such a great job.
I know Albert Laval is a big part of that, a great rider, top 5 ITTer this year. Do you think he's going to be your finisher today?
You know, we'll see. I mean, we're certainly he's out there right now doing a great job controlling the race, and we're going to bring him off soon, give him some rest. And, you know, you got to be opportunistic. You got to be ready for anything that can happen. But if I had to put my money on it, I sure would like to see Albert on the bike.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing a few exchanges here on the near side. Blackie, Boles coming in for an exchange. They didn't really get too far off the front there. Cutters also maybe readying for one as well. But your experience in the race, I guess, what?
See a crash in the middle of turn 1 and 2, 3 riders down. 1 is on the track. I think they're about to throw a yellow flag out.
Oh, we'll look for Chappie Blackwell. He has it in his hand. It looks like Theta Chi is one of those teams. Looks like Phi Kappa Tau as well. As Cutters comes in for an exchange, Phi Delta Theta comes in for an exchange.
Yellow flag is out.
And the yellow flag is out. And here's a replay of it, or at least the after effects of it. Beta Sigma Psi in there as well, so they were a team that was up there earlier on. And now we're under caution once again. 136 laps scored here today.
Yeah, this might be a longer yellow. That rider looks like he's in a lot of pain. They really need to get him further away from the track if they're going to be able to bring that green flag back out.
Those tricolor jerseys, all very similar. But we are still under a yellow flag caution. So we'll see how this transpires here.
This is interesting. The main pack is split apart a little bit. Looks like the front of the pack is coming out of turn 2 now. But you have 2 other packs of teams close behind. This is where it's important to make sure that you're keeping your distance from the leaders, because if you don't, you can get a penalty called encroaching.
So something to watch here. Now as we're through 138 laps scored, so a few more caution laps potentially.
Yeah, it looks like that rider is still down on the track.
And as we wait for this caution, we're still joined up here in the booth by Dan Funk of Phi-Psi. I guess just looking back on your little 500 career, what are some of those fond memories?
Well, first, I hope that the young man is okay down there. But, you know, so I got the chance to ride from 1991 through 93 for 3 years. It was one of the great things I got to do with my life, and still coming back, working with our team. And Little 500 is a very, very special thing that I think anybody who knows anything about Indiana University or came here holds a special place for it in their heart.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm sitting next to 2 former riders themselves, both coming back, and it's great to see all the alumni support for really any team out here. So, Dan, we really appreciate you coming up, spending a few minutes with us. Good luck to Phi-Psi, and enjoy this little 500.
Thanks very much, guys, and yeah, go Phi-Psi.
Thank you. So 139 laps scored.
Looks like we're still under yellow.
Is that rider getting taken off there on a stretcher. Never want to see that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna probably see the green flag wave when the main pack comes back through the start-finish line on this lap.
Obviously, just precautions being taken there with that stretcher, but we are back to green flag racing after that minor disturbance. 140 laps scored. As we're coming into the final 60 laps, and it's very stretched out right now.
Ooh, so you see that Blackie bull rider coming through turn 1. He lost his wheel twice. Turn 1 is really starting to deteriorate.
And that's where we saw those riders go down just a few minutes ago, causing that yellow flag.
Looks like Effandi and Feist are a little bit off the pack together right now. They are really throwing it down right now. This is an interesting move. I wonder if they're trying to commit to this or just make the race a little bit faster.
And Jet Black readying for an exchange there in turn 2. And it looks like NEH Cycling also making an exchange. So now we're kind of getting into this, I guess, latter quarter of the race, just about 10 laps away. How much is kind of this portion setting up for that ending?
Absolutely. So this is where the teams they're starting to look around a little bit. They're trying to see who's around, where can they make moves. The coaches in their pits are definitely strategizing with the teams, with their riders that are in the pit with them, trying to say, hey, you know, 150's coming up. We need to start looking for moves and strategize those last 50 laps.
And still about 20 teams on the lead lap currently. It seems like a lot for still this late in the race.
Yeah, it's a pretty good amount of teams still on the lap. I think the last 40 laps being so slow, a lot of teams will be able to hang on, catch back on after previously falling off. So you're probably going to see after 150 when the fireworks start shooting, a lot more of those teams are gonna fall off.
Beta Sigma Psi now off the front and well out in front. This is a team we honestly didn't expect to be too much of a factor today, but they have been at the front a little bit today as they make an exchange there on the backstretch. A few exchanges there on the backstretch.
Looks like we have Sigep also waiting for an exchange. They're going to put Ben Harris on the bike.
And he was the starter for Sigep today. Had a pretty decent first set. As that's Jake Luker coming off the bike. So Ben Harris on for Sigep as they're up there as well. And that's a team that has been up at the top the past few years. A very deep team last year with Charlie Hicks as well. Tom Settle and Ben Harris back this year as they are looking to get onto that podium. Both Harris and Settle, both seniors in their final race.
Yeah, this pack is still going pretty slow, but we are inching, like we said earlier, to that 150 threshold for the fireworks.
And here come a few burns as well. Looks like that's Effandi and Feist off the front. Feist trying to follow that burn. It'll be Andrew Laval coming onto the bike for Feist. And it looks like Effandi now coming in for their exchange.
So interesting.
That is Colton Rainier.
Feist just waved off their exchange, and Albert Laval is going for it. This might be the first big late attack in the race. He is cruising right now. This is interesting. We'll see if they are going to commit and if the pack is going to respond to that. This is good, though. You always need an attack around lap 150 to make sure some of those lower tier teams kind of get off the back, and there's going to be a lot of counter punches back and forth from now on.
And here he comes for his exchange. exchanges to his brother Andrew, and Albert, one of the best riders in this field, 5th in ITTs, and now a sizable lead for Phi Kappa Psi.
They are definitely committing to this attack. They got on the bike and he immediately started hammering. I'm not sure if the pack fully understands that Phi Psi is off the front. They're either content to not chase it or just do not know.
It's about a 15-second gap between Phi Psi and the rest of the pack.
So you see Cutters on the front. They're aware. I think they're going to try to shut this down. Phi Psi has a big gap right now.
And now Nick's trying to come off the front as well. So we'll see how long Phi Psi can keep this up. 148 laps scored. And we're reaching that final quarter of this 69th Men's Little 500.
Looks like BKB is going to put their star rider Xavier Martinez in the race. And we'll see him try to shut this down. Great exchange from Blackie Boles. Having Xavier on the bike in the pack will be great to shut this down. Hopefully they can work together. Looks like Phi Psi's gap is going backwards. Phi Psi's coach is writing something on the board to his rider every single lap around the track. Looks like the pack is content to slow down a little bit now.
And now we welcome in Eddie Cotton, who is down on the field.
Thanks, Josh. Now, what I've been doing on the field is going around to as many teams as I can and trying to figure out when they think this race is going to open up. From Blackie Boles, we thought we got maybe around lap 160, and their expectation, though, is they're going to really go after it about 185. You're going to see Rob Strobel on the bike to start that, and then obviously their main goal is to end with Xavier. Then Phi Psi, they're thinking right now is the time to break away like we've seen so far already. They want to stay at the front of the pack because they need to avoid any trouble, any crashes, or any possible harm that they could be in their way. And I talked to Effandi as well. They're thinking 175, but they're trying to do as little work as possible until that 175 point. But I talked to some alumni about what their expectations is for this final end of the race, and I keep hearing the same thing, that it's going to inevitably come down to a sprint, which, I mean, down here, I'm excited. I don't know about you guys.
We're excited up here. There's been a lot of interesting storylines, I guess, going throughout this race so far. Teams coming off the front, and teams trying to hold it, then the pack coming back together. So we'll see how this eventually ends up.
Yeah, it looks like we have Grey Goat on the front now. Looks like the pack is going pretty far wide. Nobody really wants to chase that except for Cutters keeps going to the front. Looks like the gap is under 10 seconds now, but the pack is definitely not chasing as fast as they were before.
So that's an interesting strategy from Phi Psi that Eddy picked up on, that they're just going to try to stay out in front as far as they can and as long as they can and see kind of how it works out in the end.
Yeah, and they have a really great situation right now. They have three other teams that they're working with that are already lapped, but it gets them out of the wind so they're not just chasing by themselves. That is the ideal situation if you're going to try to launch an attack like this.
But at the same time, doesn't that kind of shorten their lead a little bit with, I guess, those teams that are lapped obviously being a little slower?
Right, and so that's what depends. If you're on that wheel and you're like, okay, this isn't good enough, then you need to go around. But it looks like Phi Psi right now is content to hold those wheels. They could be teams that, you know, maybe just got in a crash, maybe just had an unlucky exchange or something, so maybe that's why they're off the back. But looks like Phi Psi is pretty content to just kind of hold the pace that he is. This is interesting. They're not really going after it. They're just kind of riding about a straightaway on the rest of the field.
It's Andrew Laval on the bike. His brother Albert really extended that lead on his last set, taking an extra burn lap, and that has really proved to be the difference so far.
Yeah, this is an interesting strategy from Feist, if they didn't have those teams to draft off of, then I wouldn't really like this strategy because it's just kind of wasting unnecessary matches that's going to come together. But having those riders, he's protected. He's really not doing that much work and wasting that much energy. He's just riding a straightaway up on the field.
So 155 laps scored. And Feist holding up right now.
So it looks like the gap is up to 7 seconds, and it looks like Feist is going to do a bike-to-bike exchange. So you're going to see the pack definitely close on them a lot, but we'll see if this next rider is going to keep trying to make this gap happen or if they're just going to slap back into the pack.
It looks like they're going to do the same thing. So one more burn lap for Feist, and I mean that's huge now. 2 in a row of those.
Yeah, that was interesting because they kind of were content, and then he sped up. Then he did a +1, as we say, instead of coming and did one more lap. So maybe they are going to keep committing to this move.
And this is very similar to kind of what we saw with Beta last year, maybe a little bit earlier. But they're trying to just go fast and maybe shorter sets.
Yeah, it looks like the gap is getting close to a half lap. That will go a little bit back once the exchange happens, but this is a serious move.
And the Feist fans applauding their bikers right now who are putting in some big time work right now as Phi Delta Theta now with an exchange. And a Jet Black exchange coming there in turn 2 as well, as you'll see just behind these riders now in the top left.
Yeah, it looks like Feist has been able to hold that Godspeed wheel for a long time now. He's really not expending that much energy in this.
Godspeed is a team that in their first race got caught up with a few other bikes very early on in this race, and that has put them pretty much behind the 8 ball all day long. They are 6 laps down right now, and they started out of the 8th spot, so they've lost quite a bit of room there.
Looks like teams are really coasting through that turn 1. As you saw Cutters and Blackie Boles lose their wheels a little bit. That could be a big story on the last lap if any teams go down.
And it looks like BKB setting up for a potential exchange here now as
Jay Rosati is going to get on the bike.
And this pack is basically now back together with BKB taking the lead at least momentarily.
So is BKB making a move right now?
So that's Xavier Martinez on the bike for Blackie Boles. And maybe we're starting to see something now.
You know, he has done this. This is the 3rd year in a row he has made a +1 around this around this lap in the race. I don't think they're necessarily trying to get off the front right now. They're just trying to blow the pack up and create a little bit of chaos. Looks like Cutters is trying to shut it down. They are also going to do an exchange to Noble Guy on their sprinter.
So Blackie Boles an exchange, fairly clean one there. And now here's Cutters. So a lot of the big guns getting put on the bikes now. Noble Guy, and this is an interesting spot for him to be on the bike. 40 laps to go, and he was the finisher last year.
Yeah, I think this will probably be his last set before the final one.
As Grey Goat burning now here, coming across the start-finish line.
Yeah, we'll see if Griego's going to try to make a move out of this. They have a pretty big gap on the rest of the pack.
So we are setting up for an exciting finish here at the 69th Little 500. There is the exchange from Grey Goat. And it looks like they'll be able to keep a little bit of a lead here.
Yeah, you see that pack is very strung out right now. They are doing some fast laps. Teams are trying to exchange. Looks like Effandi is ready for an exchange right now. It looks like Feist has been brought back. They are just part of the pack now. Sig up with an exchange as well.
Tom Settle getting on the bike. Ben Harris coming off. And now we're going to send it down to Eddy Cotton, who is more on the field.
Thanks, Josh. I went back over to Feist side to have a little bit of a conversation about their continued strategy here, and a little bit has to do with the conditions on the track. They acknowledge that turns 3 and 4 are starting to get really dry and dusty, so their thought process is if you're going to get into a sprint at the very end, it's only going to come at around turn 2. So they're feeling confident because that's not their forte. They want to win this with a breakaway, so they're starting to feel comfortable, but it'll be interesting to watch when we come down to the end of the race when that sprint comes, if it ever comes.
Thank you very much, Eddy. Right now it is Grey Goat off the front, Logan Tisdale on the bike. And we have something here in turn 1. Sigep caught up in it. They're running a bike over. It looks like it was a lot of other teams, though, towards the back. Beta Sigma Psi, Fiji as well. And we have another look at this. It was Beta Sigma Psi barreling into Fiji right there.
Oh, you hate to see that this late in the race. We got a replay.
But Grey Goat still out in front, and that was Tom Settle on the bike for Sigep. And boy, oh boy, that could take Sigep out of this thing with only about 35 laps to go. And they're now well behind the leaders. It's still Grey Goat, though, out in front. And it looks like we're going to avoid a yellow caution flag. And we will stay green. Looks like Delta Chi may be caught up in that as well.
Yeah, I think as we were talking about earlier, turn 1 is really loose. You're seeing a lot of teams losing their wheel as they're going through there. It's probably a big part of the reason that crash happened.
And now Tom Settle getting back onto the bike for Sigep, and they have now some ground to make up with the rest of this pack.
Yeah, so we see a replay here.
Sigep there off to the right, and he just scrambled to try to get that bike back right away. Now as Feist makes an exchange here on the near side, Jack Warner onto the bike.
Yeah, it looks like Feist isn't necessarily committing to an attack. They're just a little bit off the front. We'll see how the pack responds to that. Wow, that turn 1 is so dusty.
Yeah, it really looks like it's the only turn right now that's really loose and dusty, as you were talking about.
Yeah, so you might see teams that might want to thin this pack out a little more and make the race a little bit faster so they're not caught in a crash in that turn again.
So right now the top 3, Feist, 3PH, Gafambi.
Yeah, definitely be looking for a big-time attack. Sometime in the next 10 laps, teams are going to try to attack other teams' weakest riders. So if you see, say, Cutter's 4th get on the bike, maybe Blackie Boles launches a big attack on them, if not vice versa. This is when strategy is very important. The coaches in the pits are going to be looking out for who's on the bike for other teams.
And I think we're officially now into that area where teams could start to make some moves here. 167 laps scored.
It's interesting that Feist is still just kind of dangling off the front. The pack is pretty content to just let it happen.
And Sigep is caught back up, so they are in kind of the back of that pack right now, trying to go around the outside and get back up front. But that is some good work put in by Tom Settle, and I think they are setting up for an exchange now as he's trying to burn.
Yeah, that was a great effort from Sigep. That was the right move. Put your star rider on the race. It's too late in the race to make any other decision. So great job on Tom Settle to bring everything back. It looks like he is getting latched onto by Cutters and the rest of the pack. You might see a few other exchanges happen now.
Cutters is readying for one. Sigep is going to take it, so they'll lose a little bit of ground. Onto the bike is Jake Luker, and Cutters trying to do now, I guess, a +1, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they're going to bring it in on this lap, or if they're going to maybe do one more. It looks like they are ready for an exchange, though.
So Cutters now readying for an exchange. That's Noble Gyein. And coming onto the bike, as there he makes the exchange, it will be Greg Hubrecht.
I think Noble being on the in the pack there was great. It's going to loosen his legs up, maybe get a little more jitters out before his he'll probably only have one more set, and that will be his final one. And unless they try to make a breakaway attempt, but I think at this point it's kind of looking like they're gearing up more for a sprint than that. I would have seen maybe more of an attack out of Noble if they were going to try to make a breakaway. You never know. They do have Greg Hubrecht, who is a top 10 ITTer.
I mean, sometimes things don't always go to plan, as we have seen in past Little 500s. Jet Black now off the front, Forrest cycling as well. Phi Delta Theta setting up for an exchange.
So Blackie Boles is following this burn out. And so is Cutters. These might be some attacks. Looks like Grey Goat's making a big move too.
It's Grey Goat, 3PH, Blackie Boles.
Grey Goat's going to exchange here. But it looks like BKB is going to have one more lap in exchange, but you see Cutters is glued to his wheel, and they are not exchanging. So it'll be interesting to see if they are launching attack on BKB right now. Looks like Sigap is also going to exchange.
So here comes Blackie Boles for that exchange. Jay Rosati coming in, and it looks like that's Zach Mears hopping on. And it is now Cutters out in front, 173 laps scored.
Yeah, you see the pack slowing down a little bit now. Nobody really wants to pull through.
Effandi now setting up for an exchange here on the near side. That's Sam Bradley coming on, and Blake Castetter coming off. So Jonathan Jagger and Colton Rainier, maybe two of their stronger riders, are waiting here on those stationary bikes in the pit. Feist now setting up for something.
Yeah, it looks like Feist is getting a pretty big gap. It's interesting that the pack is content to not chase those burns off, because we've seen them get off the front several times in the race so far. Looks like they are putting their star rider Albert on the bike. We'll see if anything big happens from that.
And SAE also making an exchange here on the near side. And here comes Feist, Albert Laval, onto the bike. And the wind starting to pick up just a little bit. And that turn on, still very dusty over there.
Yeah, 175 laps scored. This is go time. This is where chaos might start happening.
So SAE, the number 28 team, was out in front, and now they're being passed by a few teams. NEH now looking like they're burning. So NEH making the exchange there off to the left side of the screen. That's Phi Delta Theta and Forrest. Forrest setting up for an exchange on the near side, along with Phi Delt. This has been an interesting team, Forrest, so far. We haven't really mentioned them a whole lot, but they've been up there, and they're staying up there.
Yeah, they're doing great today. Looks like that pack is just kind of slowing. 177 laps scored. It's interesting to see if anything is going to happen, or if they're just going to wait another 22 laps for the sprint to happen.
And now we send it down to Eddie Cotton down on the field.
Thanks, Josh. And turn one is absolutely dusty as can be right now, and it's incredibly difficult for these teams trying to pull off exchanges. So I went around, talked to as many teams by turn one to see how they handle it. Some were simply, yeah, we don't have a strategy, I don't know, just hope for the best. And others saying, hold on to the bike as hard as you can, avoid anything you can in front of you. But the biggest problem is the dust coming in the mouths of some of these riders, and they have to handle that and push through it. But another thing I noticed there on that turn one, we saw Sigep get into that crash earlier. They're trying to get back in the race using the help of Theta Kai right next to them. So they're going to be a little bit of a pair duo here as Sigep tries to get back into this race.
Thank you very much, Eddie. At turn one, we've talked about it a little bit. It doesn't look good from up here. We've seen a few mishaps here in the past few laps as well. But as a rider, with those dusty conditions, what is your mindset when you have to pass turn one every lap?
Yeah, it's tough because, looks like Cutter's making a big move, probably trying to exchange. But turn one, or when that track is dusty like that, you really do. Sometimes you have to coast. Sometimes you don't want to pedal through it. It's the experienced riders that have been on the track all spring that understand what they need to do in different conditions. Those are the ones that are going to handle it right. You just hope that somebody else doesn't get in your way and crash you out.
And Blackie Boles maybe setting up for an exchange. Cutters also has a rider maybe getting out there. Sigep as well.
Looks like Blackie Boles is putting Robert Strobel on the bike. Their third place ITTer.
Zach Mears coming off.
This might be their big set where they try to make things happen. Robert is definitely that person on their team. So this, you might be looking out for them. They might be doing some big things this set.
This race still there for the taking for a lot of teams. 180 laps scored. We are getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Griego off the front, along with Feist as well.
So Cutters is doing an exchange to Patrick Coulter, but they did not get a very big gap on that exchange, and now they're a little bit off the back, and Patrick's going to have to chase back to get onto that wheel. It looks like the front of the pack is also going pretty fast. He's going to have to work a little bit harder. He'll be fine, but not the ideal situation this late in the race.
So Griego out in front.
This is when exchanges and getting gaps is so important. This is why you train hours and hours a week to make sure those exchanges are fast.
And now it's Feist as it looks like they're setting up for a burn. That's Albert Laval. An exchange coming to his brother, Andrew. We'll see if he elects to do it on this lap or if he wants one more. And he will come in for an exchange. So Feist, 183 laps scored now.
Feist has a pretty big gap right now. 17 laps to go. They are definitely committing to this move. This is their move. We'll see if the pack is content to let them go a little bit, if they're going to chase that down. They have almost a full straightaway lead. As you see Feist coming out into turn 4 as the pack goes into turn 3. Looks like the pack does know they're out the front. Look, Griego is trying to maybe catch that Feist wheel.
It's about a 2.5 second gap. Griego's just kind of in no man's land right now.
Yeah, Griego either needs to go backwards to the pack or they need to catch that wheel.
And Nick Price also just onto the bike for Phi Delta Theta.
It looks like Cutters are going to ready for an exchange too. So this is where a potential big move might happen. Cutters is putting their fourth ITTer on the bike.
It's Victor Grossling. So 15 laps to go, under 15 laps to go now, as Cutters makes the exchange. So at what point do we start to see those final riders potentially start to get on the bike?
You might see some teams who have a rider who may not be going for the sprint, maybe trying to slip off the lead early, might start putting the rider around 190, but likely you won't see the big gun sprinters on the bike until 195 or on. Those last 5 laps will start trying to get on the bike. Looks like BKB has caught Cutter's wheel. This is definitely an attack to catch back to Griego. Looks like people are really coasting through that turn 1.
And that Feist lead about 5 seconds over Griego, about 8 seconds ahead of Cutters and BKB.
This is big. Cutters and BKB are going to catch Griego, and they'll have 3 teams to try to shut this Feist gap down.
We'll see how long Feist can stay up in the lead, or if they want to exchange here soon. They have that gap. It's about a 6-second gap over Griego now for Feist.
Looks like Feist has a 7-second gap over BKB and Cutters, and approximately, looks like Griego just exchanged, so now it's BKB and Cutters chasing down that 7-second gap. It looks like the rest of the pack, with Effandi leading the charge, is catching Cutter's wheel now.
So Feist just crosses that start-finish line, and they are riding alone right now.
The pack looks like Effambi's going to go to the front. BKB does not want to pull hard right now. They want to make somebody else do it. 12 laps to go.
And it is a 10-second lap as it a 10-second gap, as now Feist setting up for an exchange along with Effandi here on the near side.
Looks like Griego just went off the front of the pack to try to chase this Feist down.
And he's taking one more lap. That's Andrew Laval on the bike. Eric Merker is waiting. And now Albert Laval also waiting there as well. So we'll see who they decide to go with here with about 10 laps left.
Looks like Cutters have gone to the front of the chase group to try to get back that Griego wheel.
And Feist also making an exchange. Jeff Beaumont onto the bike. And here comes the Feist exchange. It will be bike to bike. Andrew Laval coming in.
So I think you're going to see the pack try to make a big move to shut it down right now. They see him. Looks like Cutters goes to the front. They're trying to shut this down. But what you see here is you see fresh legs with Feist. Fresh legs can roll off the front of the pack while their tired legs behind them can't catch them.
So 10 laps left. It's Feist, Griego, Cutters, BKB. Those are the teams right now up there. Bears is also in there as well. About a 4-second difference now between Feist and the Chasers. And now Griego moving ahead. Griego is exchanging there on that back stretch. They didn't have too much of a gap from the rest of that pack, yet still elected for the exchange.
Yeah, it looks like Griego is chasing back onto the pack now, but Feist is still off the front.
A 4.3 second difference now. Jet Black into that 2 spot. And Jet Black will come in for an exchange there on the far side.
Looks like Cutters is doing a lot of the work to try to bring this thing back.
And Effandi also a bad exchange here on the near side. They're about half a lap back. It might be tough for them to get back into this race. But Feist crosses the finish line, start-finish line, and it's about a 5-second difference now. 193 laps scored.
So you see down in the Cutters pit, Noble is readying for an exchange. They are going to put their sprinter on the bike whenever they exchange next. It looks like BKB, Robert Strobel, just did a big move, and it does not appear that they are going to exchange right now, so this might be a late attack.
And Cutters falling back a little bit as well, just getting caught up with some rest of the riders. Here's a Feist exchange. They're off to the left. And onto the bike now is Jack Warner.
Bad.
And Blackie, Boles. Boy, they went in for the exchange and decided not to do it.
It looks like Robert was shaking. He said, I need to get off the bike. And Ryan Knapp said, no, you have to get back in there. That was not ideal.
That's where that race experience can come into play. Now as Feist well out in front, about a 3-second difference. Blackie, Boles, and Cutters, the main chasers.
It looks like Xavier Martinez and Noble Gyein are setting up together to try to get on into the race. It looks like both of them are exchanging now.
So here come the exchanges from Blackie, Boles, and for Cutters. So here we go. 195 laps scored. It's still Feist well out in front, and they're setting up for an exchange here on the near side. This could be the final exchange for our current leaders in Phi Kappa Psi.
You saw Noble and Xavier, as soon as they got on the bike, they looked at each other and said, let's do this, let's bring this back. We want to compete for the win. We are not okay with not having a chance.
And there is Albert Laval getting onto the bike for Feist. 196 laps scored, and there is a sizable gap. It's about 8 seconds currently. Albert Laval, the 5th place rider in ITTs, on the bike for our leaders in Phi Kappa Psi, looking to get a fraternity team back onto the podium for the first time since 2016 when Delta Tau Delta took home the title. 197 laps scored now. And a 6.6 second difference.
This is a big gap. This might be the bike race. Albert threw down a couple very fast laps, but it's looking like he's signaling to his pit. He looks like he's already celebrating.
198 laps scored. This Phi pit can start to feel it just a little bit here on the near side. A 7.9 second difference.
It looks like Phi is going to exchange.
Phi setting up for an exchange. Boy, this is quite a development here. They have a huge gap.
I don't like this move. When BKB and Cutters see this exchange, they're going to make a big push to catch them.
So here we go. It is Andrew Laval onto the bike, and here is the bike race, and everybody is catching up. Phi still chest out in front now as Xavier Martinez takes the inside around turn 2 into the backstretch. Cutters coming around the outside trying to get around Xavier Martinez. It's his final race, and it is once again a sprint to the finish for the 69th Little 500. Cutters and Blackie, Boles, and it's a two-peat, a repeat for Cutters. They've done it again. Are you serious? What a finish.
That was a very exciting finish. You do not see people pass out of turn 4 in the mids race very often.
So our unofficial results, Cutters, Bears, and Blackie Boles. So BKB, a 3rd place finish for now the 2nd year in a row. And now we send it down to Eddie Cotton in the Cutters pit.
Yeah. 2 years in a row, man. How does it feel to pull it out at the end?
Feels good, man. Feels really good. I mean, we really wanted it this year. Like, they say a lot of times the winning team gets cocky, but we wanted it more than anyone. So,
what does it mean to you?
It means a lot. My father just passed away, and I told him I'd win this race for him. So it feels good.
It's absolutely incredible. The rest of you guys, How's it feel? Over here, how does it feel for you?
It's pretty amazing. It's been an emotional week on many levels for the team, and yeah, I was happy to get another one. That was one heck of a race. Props to Feist for throwing that flyer in at the end, and Blackie Boles rode a great race too. So hats off to them.
What does it mean to have this whole team rally around Noble?
I don't think it was just rallying around Noble. This is the best definition of a team I've ever seen in my Little Five, helping out with Little Five. So I think they lifted each other up today, all of them.
How does it feel to win the Little 500?
I can't even.
Dude,
I can't
you're
even.
a champion, man. You are a champion.
What's going through your head when you have Noble on the bike in the last lap?
I mean, we've trusted him. I mean, since day one, we knew that we trusted him. I mean, this whole team's a family. We rallied around him in our goal. That was our goal, get him on the bike for the last set around lap 192. We did that, we executed it, and everything turned out the way we wanted it to.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
So what a finish it was. It was Bears just edging out BKB there for that second spot. But what an exciting finish. Some emotion down there in that Cutter's pit for sure.
You know, winning Little 500 is, at this point in a college student's life, the best thing that has ever happened to him. And that's how you could see Victor down there, just speechless, raw emotion. You love to see it.
Just an incredible finish. Once again, just an incredible move by Noble, Gyein, and Cutters to get back into the winner's circle for a second straight year. And I'm curious your thoughts on the final exchange by Feist, because that brought the pack all the way back together on the final lap.
You know, I would have liked to see them not exchange, even if their rider who did exchange was dying. They had such a big gap that they might have just stayed off the front if they didn't do that exchange. As soon as BKB and Cutters and that pack saw them, it was over.
And now we send it back down to Eddie Cotton.
Coach, how does it feel to win 2 times in a row?
Oh, it's unbelievable, my friend. That was just an incredible full race experience. It was so hard. Many teams tried. We couldn't be very patient this year. We had to spend a lot of energy to go after them and bring the race back together. And I just got to give props for our guys for having faith. And even though it looked really grim at the end, somehow, some way, the Cutters came through and won out of turn 4.
What's going through your head when Noble's on the bike on that last lap?
It's tough because it doesn't look good. But I know he's trained so hard. He's spent so much time over the summer last year working for these moments, and I just have to have faith in him and know that he's giving it everything he can to bring home that victory.
And what does it mean to have your team rally around him with everything he's been through?
He asked for it. He stepped up and he wanted the challenge, so the team's happy to be there for him.
Go enjoy the podium. Congrats 2 times in a row.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Just a lot of emotion there for Cutters and Jim Kirkham. Here is the top 5. So Cutters, Bears, BKB, Grey Goat, 3PH, and then Feist in 8th. Boy, they really fell off there down the stretch.
Yeah, you saw Bears barely inch out BKB for that second place spot. And now we have 3 years in a row of all independents podium.
And once again, it was Sigep that couldn't quite get it done and get onto the podium. Phi Delta Theta was up there as well. SAE, I give them a lot of credit, coming from the 28th spot, and they get a 9th place finish. Feist in 8th, Sigep in 7th.
Big time from Mother Bears today. That was their best finish in history, even formally as right. Still their best finish ever. That was a pretty incredible. They came on that last lap and really shut down the BKB Cutters duel that was happening to get into that 2nd place spot. That was an awesome finish from Caleb Langley.
So there is the top three, Cutters, Bears, and BKB. Blackie Bulls now on the stage now. Third place finishers. Xavier Martinez goes out with a third place finish.
This is BKB's 6th year in a row on the podium.
And that says a lot right there.
Yeah,
even though I mean, 2017, you were there.
yeah, it was 2014 first, 2015 second, 2016 third, 2017 first, 2018 and 19 third. That's a pretty incredible slew of years for them.
Still a lot of hardware for Blackie Bulls, and now Bears cycling. Coming on to the podium, Caleb Langley, Andrew Goodrum, Josh Richards, and Jacob Boberg, 3 seniors. 3 guys from Bloomington. This has to mean a lot for this team.
You love to see them be so happy about it. Some years you see the 2nd and 3rd place teams really sad on the podium, but Mother Bears is soaking it up, and you love to see it. They are so happy with that trophy. Good for them.
So they get 2nd place, as you mentioned, one of their best finishes ever. But the next team that will come up will be the happiest of them all, Cutters, 2 in a row as your Little 500 champions. And we thought it was a late move yesterday for Teeter to get the win. Today, maybe even a later move by Cutters to somehow edge out this field.
Yeah, I think Jim Kirkham said it well. That was one of the most exciting finishes, having the gap fall on the last lap as they walk up to the podium now.
Noble Gyein, Greg Hubrechts, Patrick Calder, and Victor Grossling.
I was actually told last night that Noble is taking a 5th year and may be coming back to the race.
Well, that would be a development.
Yeah.
He has raced in 2 races, now this one being his 3rd. So, I don't know, maybe we will see Noble once again here in this Little 500. But if this is it, 2 incredible sprint finishes, 2 incredible sprint wins for Cutters and their 14th overall title.
The winningest team in Little 500 history with 14 wins.
Patrick Coulter raises that trophy up. You get so many different pieces of hardware here.
I know, but you love it because you're just sitting on the podium. You are on top of the world right now, as you can tell by the smiles on their faces. And you get to soak it up by holding up the trophy, holding up another trophy, holding up a bike. You love it. Everybody's looking at you. Your team is below you on the track. It is the best feeling in the world.
But here's the big one, the Borg Warner Trophy handed to the winner. And there it is in all of its glory for the winners of the Little 500, Cutters once again. So overall, just a beautiful day for racing. The sun has come out, and it really turned out to just be a, I mean, maybe aside from turn 1 over there, a pretty good track overall.
Yeah, honestly, only 2 yellows, maybe a couple more crashes than that. But overall, a great day.
And you got this experience in 2017. I mean, how do you sum this up for what they're going through?
It is just pure happiness. It's the best feeling in the world when you're a 20, 21, 22-year-old. Nothing in your life is as good as this moment.
So they get to raise the bike for a 2nd straight year. And boy, what a finish it was. So what a day it was. An early wreck there by Godspeed Cycling in their first race. A few other riders now getting tangled up there. We didn't really see we saw a few yellow flags, but overall a fairly clean race, not a huge wreck.
Yeah, you like to see that. I think there was 1 wreck on the first lap and a couple that were kind of came out of turn 1. But overall, really solid day. Yeah, you see that turn 1 right there. It was crazy dusty today.
So that is going to do it here from Bill Armstrong Stadium. What a race it was here today for our entire production crew. Eddy Cotton down on the field, Charlie Hammon here up in the booth. I'm Josh Eastern saying so long from Bill Armstrong Stadium.